I was rejected 100 times before I even started high school, so I prayed for one girlfriend, and the God of love promised me 100 soulmates. Then he admitted the catch: if I rejected a true soulmate, she would die from losing her destined partner. My name was Liam Archer. During my first week at Westbridge Academy, 2 girls confessed to me on the same day. I held out 2 pink 4-leaf clovers and asked both of them to date me. Savannah Porter stared at the clover, then smiled like she had already won. Tori Maddox called me insane while gripping hers hard enough to crush the stem. I had searched all night because I refused to make either girl feel disposable. I knew that feeling too well. Both girls eventually said yes. That left me with 2 girlfriends, 98 promised soulmates, and a first kiss war before homeroom. To understand how I reached that ridiculous morning, go back 1 month to rejection number 100. I had just finished middle school when a girl handed my confession letter back. She gave me the same careful smile I had seen 99 times. "Liam, you're nice, I just don't see you that way." There it was. Triple digits, a record nobody sane wanted. My friend watched her leave, then looked me over like I was defective merchandise. "You have decent grades," he told me. "You're tall, your face works. How did you get rejected 100 times? I reminded him that I had started confessing early, very early. According to my parents, I proposed to a daycare worker before I could pronounce her name. Look, ambition was never my problem, results were. My friend laughed until I walked away. That evening, I went to Cupid's Corner Shrine because humiliation had finally made me religious. I dropped a coin into the donation box and prayed, "Please, one girlfriend in high school, I'm begging here." The donation box shook. A tiny winged man rose out of it wearing the expression of someone interrupted during television. He introduced himself as the God of Love. The divine couch potato looked at me once and nodded. "You'll meet 100 soulmates during high school." I stared at him. My request had been 1 girlfriend. Destiny had apparently misread the order and added 2 zeros. I pointed at the shrine behind him. "If you're lying, I'm coming back with a hammer." The god ducked into the box and told me to have faith. Strong words from a man hiding beside my coin. 1 month later, on my first morning at Westbridge Academy, I collided with 2 girls near the front gate. The first was Savannah Porter, a confident girl with a sweet voice and dangerous eye contact. The second was Tori Maddox, blunt enough to look offended by the sidewalk. When Savannah met my eyes, a shock ran through my chest. Then Tori looked at me. The same shock hit again. That was the soulmate spark. I understood the rule because all 3 of us reacted. Savannah fell backward and grabbed her ankle. Tori did the exact same thing half a second later. "My ankle hurts," Savannah murmured. "Could you help me inside?" Tori shoved her hand toward me. "Mine hurts worse, obviously." I offered each girl an arm. Both grabbed on, then both pressed closer and started fighting over which side had more of me. Savannah smiled at Tori. "You can walk behind us." Tori's eye twitched. "You can walk into traffic." Man, 5 minutes into high school, and romance had already chosen violence. Near the courtyard, 2 students passed us while discussing an old Westbridge rumor. A confession made with a pink 4-leaf clover supposedly guaranteed a yes. Savannah released my arm. Tori released the other one. Both girls sprinted toward the garden at full speed. Their tragic ankle injuries achieved a miracle recovery. I watched them disappear and accepted that I had been scammed by 2 very pretty criminals. After school, I found Tori beside a vending machine. She was holding 2 drinks and pretending one had appeared by accident. I bought another and offered it to her. Tori turned red. "I didn't ask you to buy me anything." I pointed at the second drink. "You're holding one for me." Tori hugged both cans. "This one is also mine." I tapped the matching labels. "You bought the same flavor I picked this morning," Tori shot back. "That proves you copied me." She denied every obvious fact without blinking. Savannah arrived before Tori could lose the argument. She took my drink, lifted it toward her lips, and tried to turn one sip into an indirect kiss. Then she noticed Tori watching. Savannah panicked and spilled the drink down her sleeve. Smooth entrance, immediate crash. She grabbed my hand before she lost her nerve. "Liam, I like you," Savannah told me. "I know another girl does too, so I'm saying it first. Please date me." My brain stopped. 100 rejections had trained me for failure. I had no practice handling success. Tori marched over carrying both vending machine drinks. "You cut the line," she snapped at Savannah. Savannah squeezed my hand. "There wasn't a line." Tori planted herself beside us. "There is now." She shoved one drink against my chest and glared anywhere except my face. "I don't like you," Tori announced. "I just hate the idea of her winning." Savannah tilted her head. "Then you won't mind if Liam says yes to me?" Tori folded instantly. "Fine, I like him too," she shouted. "Liam, date me." Both girls turned toward me. They wanted my answer the next morning. I had spent my entire life chasing one yes. Now 2 yeses were demanding that I choose which one to destroy. That night, I yanked open the donation box at Cupid's Corner Shrine. The god of love rose with a snack still in his mouth. I asked how one soulmate had become two. He admitted the television mistake in one sentence. While assigning my destiny, he had entered 100 soulmates instead of one. The divine couch potato had turned my first romance into a survival challenge. Then his face became serious. A true soulmate who lost her destined partner would die from the heartbreak. I refused to test whether he was right. His easy answer was lying to both girls, and I rejected it before he finished suggesting it. After 100 gentle rejections, I would not build my first relationship on a cowardly lie, so I made a third choice. The next morning, Savannah and Tori waited outside Westbridge Academy. I walked up carrying 2 closed fists. "I want to date both of you," I told them. Tori stared at me. "That is the dumbest answer available," I admitted. "Probably." Savannah leaned closer. "You're serious?" I opened my hands. 2 pink 4-leaf clovers rested on my palms. Savannah's smile vanished. Tori stopped breathing for a second. Savannah looked at the mud on my knees. "You searched all night?" I nodded. Savannah traced the muddy stem. Tori looked from my scratched fingers to the second clover and finally went quiet. I told them I had searched every clover patch around the school all night. My knees were muddy. My fingers were scratched. I had found one before midnight and refused to leave until I found the second. I held them out again. "One for Savannah, one for Tori. I won't rank either of you." Savannah accepted first. "Yes," she whispered. Then her confidence returned. "Obviously yes." Tori glared at the clover for another 3 seconds. Then she snatched her clover. "I'm only agreeing because leaving you alone with Savannah would be irresponsible." Savannah hugged my arm. "He has 2 girlfriends now." Tori grabbed the other one. "And you're still losing." I had finally received one, yes. Then I received 2. The peace lasted exactly long enough for both girls to start pulling me in opposite directions. The next morning, I arrived early and practiced greeting them beside the gate. Unfortunately, I practiced on a light pole. "Good morning, Savannah. Good morning, Tori. You both look." Savannah interrupted behind me. "Does the pole have a name?" Tori crossed her arms. "He already has a 3rd girlfriend. Shameless." I wanted the pavement to open. Instead, I took both their hands and walked into school. That helped. Students noticed immediately. One boy missed a step while counting my hands, and 2 girls whispered after Savannah squeezed closer. Yesterday, I had been rejection number 100. That morning, I looked like I had hacked the romance settings. Tori heard the whispers and lifted our joined hands higher. Savannah copied her. "Try to keep up." Tori pulled me closer. "I'm carrying the team. I was apparently the ball." Near the main building, Vice Principal Crenshaw sprinted past us chasing a terrified boy. Crenshaw was Westbridge's punishment monster. Her rule was simple. Students who ran in the hallway got chased, and anyone she caught received a kiss. Westbridge had turned school discipline into romantic terrorism. Savannah watched Crenshaw disappear, then looked at me. "Liam, have you kissed anyone before?" I admitted I had not. Tori's grip tightened. Savannah's smile sharpened. My first kiss had become the last unclaimed prize in the building. At lunch, Savannah lifted a bite from her tray. "Open," she told me. I obeyed because I had finally acquired survival instincts. Tori dropped a box of homemade cookies between us. "Eat these instead. Hers are probably full of manipulation." Savannah smiled. "Mine came from the cafeteria." Tori pointed at the tray. "Exactly. Institutional manipulation." I ate 1 cookie and told Tori it was good. She looked away so fast that Savannah caught the blush before I did. Savannah immediately offered another bite. Tori leaned across to block her. Savannah leaned around. Tori followed. Their elbows met my face from both sides. I spent several seconds seeing 2 cafeterias and 4 girlfriends. Frankly, the math scared me. Savannah recovered first and produced a snack stick. She proposed that we eat from opposite ends until one of us surrendered. "In my defense," Savannah added, "I'm very competitive." Tori snapped the stick 2 inches before our lips met. Then Tori claimed the shock had stopped my breathing and offered mouth-to-mouth treatment. Savannah pointed at my watering eyes and diagnosed a separate emergency requiring the exact same cure. Neither diagnosis survived basic logic. Both girls defended theirs like licensed professionals who had lost their licenses. Savannah moved closer. "I can be gentle." Tori moved closer too. "I can be faster." I lost my train of thought. In my defense, 2 girlfriends were arguing over who got to resuscitate a man who was fully awake. I raised my hands. "I'll kiss you." They stopped fighting. Then both asked the same question. Who goes first? The same choice was back. 1 girl first, 1 girl second. I refused to rank them, so I built the least sensible fairness system ever attempted by a teenage boy. I would wear a blindfold and headphones. They would roll a die to decide who approached. I would never know which girl received the first kiss. To prove I would not cheat, I linked pinkies with both of them and promised to perform seppuku if I peeked. Tori stared at me. "You could just promise normally." Shrugged. "I had 100 rejections. Normal promises clearly weren't working." Savannah rolled first while I sat blindfolded on a bench. A gust of wind moved her hair across my face. I turned toward it and kissed empty air. Tori laughed once, then remembered she was competing and stopped. The second attempt began with soft footsteps. A cat rubbed against my ankle, so I leaned down by mistake while Savannah nearly walked into my forehead. The cat meowed like it had planned the whole thing. On the third attempt, someone grabbed my shoulder. I reached out to steady her, and my hand landed against Tori's side. She hit me before the blindfold came off. Then the cat stepped out from behind her with its tail raised. Tori looked at the cat, looked at me, and hit me once more for safety. The punishment was unfair. The cat looked satisfied. Savannah demanded another roll. Tori accused the dice of favoring shameless women. The dice had 6 blank faces and no legal representation. Savannah blamed Tori for ruining every chance. Tori blamed Savannah for breathing too flirtatiously. Within seconds, both were arguing over who owned my first kiss. I had created the fight, so I chose the only counter stupid enough to stop it. I ran into the hallway. Vice Principal Crenshaw saw me and launched after me with terrifying joy. If neither girlfriend could be first, I would let the punishment monster take the prize. Savannah and Tori understood at the same time. They sprinted past me, blocked Crenshaw, and pointed toward the office. Savannah shouted, "The district inspector is here!" Tori added, "He asked why you're kissing students." Crenshaw went pale. The feared vice principal turned around and fled from an inspector who did not exist. Fake authority met fake oversight. Beautiful. Savannah grabbed my collar. "Don't you ever do that again." Tori grabbed the other side. "Your first kiss belongs to us." Then both girls went quiet. Savannah offered Tori the first kiss because Tori had protected me. Tori offered it back because Savannah had confessed first. I looked at both of them and proposed the obvious answer our panic had avoided all day. I told them, "We do it together." Savannah understood first and moved closer. Tori called us shameless, then moved closer too. The three of us shared my first kiss at the same time. Nobody ranked second, nobody lost, and nobody felt disposable. When we pulled apart, Savannah looked delighted. Tori looked furious at how delighted she was. I was the boy who had been rejected 100 times. Now 2 girls were holding my hands and arguing over who had kissed me harder. That settled my first kiss. 98 promised soulmates were still ahead, and the next spark was waiting inside Westbridge's library. The next afternoon, I went to Westbridge Academy's library because Savannah and Tori wanted cookbooks. They found 2 books with the same dessert on the cover and started fighting before I reached the first shelf. Savannah wanted a recipe that would make me remember her forever? Tori wanted the book because Savannah wanted it. They had turned baking into a rivalry before buying a single ingredient. While they argued, I noticed a quiet student working beside the return cart. She looked up at me. The soulmate spark hit both of us. Her hand froze on the book she was holding. Mine froze halfway toward the shelf. Her name was Abigail Sutton, though I learned it a few minutes later from her student ID. Right then, I only knew she was the library volunteer trying to survive 2 loud girlfriends without making eye contact. Savannah and Tori were still arguing behind me. I had no clean way to explain my love life without a seating chart. I asked where the adventure novels were. Abigail opened the book in her hands and pointed to a printed line. "Follow me!" She did not speak aloud. She communicated by finding sentences inside books and showing them to people. The method worked, but every answer forced her eyes back onto the page. Abigail led me through 3 aisles and built a stack tall enough to hide behind. I picked up the top book. She shook her head and replaced it with another. Then 6 more. The quiet girl had strong opinions and 0 interest in mercy. I asked whether she expected me to finish the whole stack. Abigail opened a comedy novel and pointed to one line. "Do your best." I asked whether her favorite book at least had a happy ending. She searched the pages, found a sentence, and turned the book toward me. "That depends on you." The line belonged to the novel, but her blush belonged entirely to her. Okay, the librarian had game. She just outsourced the dialogue. My library card was not active yet, so the desk would not let me check anything out. Abigail hesitated, then held out her own battered novel. The cover showed a princess reaching through prison bars toward a wounded knight. She pointed to a line near the bottom of the first page. "My favorite." That made the loan personal. I promised to return it the next day. Outside the library, I finally saw the name on her student ID. "Abigail Sutton," I read. She nodded, then used the book to show me another line. "Please take care of it." I pressed the novel against my chest. "I will." Her shoulders dropped when I promised. That night, I read the whole novel. The princess loved a knight her family refused to accept. They kept reaching for each other through rules, walls, and terrible timing. The knight promised to return before her forced engagement. The princess opened the tower door. Then the book ended. The final page was blank. The reunion and answer were missing. Cruel. I stared at the final line like it had insulted my family. Abigail had recommended a cliffhanger with full knowledge of the damage. Quiet people were dangerous. The next afternoon, I returned to the library and demanded the sequel. Abigail's eyes brightened. She placed volume 2 in my hands before I finished asking. Outside the reading room, I asked why she always used books to speak. Abigail searched several pages before finding the right sentence. People think I am strange. She turned another page. I have never had a real friend. Her fingers tightened around the cover. Classmates had mocked the pauses. Even her mother treated the habit like something embarrassing. Abigail told me those facts through short lines and one painful nod. I kept my response simple. I told her, "Then I'll be your friend." She looked up for half a second and held my eyes. I borrowed the first novel again before leaving. Then I disappeared from the library for several days. Savannah and Tori still saw me at school, but I looked half dead. I slept through lunch, missed a stare, and once thanked a trash can for holding the door. The trash can had done nothing. Abigail noticed me between classes with Savannah on one arm and Tori on the other. She lowered her book and walked away before I could reach her. I called her name. She kept walking. I still needed one more night to finish what I was building. After several days, I found Abigail alone near the library windows. She started to leave. I stepped in front of her and held out my phone. "I borrowed your book again for this." The screen showed the entire novel, broken into selectable lines. I had manually typed every page into a simple speaking app. When Abigail tapped a sentence, the phone read it aloud. That was the whole trick, no lecture. My fingers had already suffered enough. She tested one line. "Good afternoon, Liam." The phone spoke while Abigail looked directly into my eyes. She tapped another. "Thank you for coming back." Her eyes filled. Then her finger hovered over a line near the bottom. "I love you." Phone said it clearly. Abigail panicked and tapped another sentence. "Please disregard the previous statement." I almost laughed, but her hands were shaking, so I answered straight. "I love you too, Abigail." She looked at me without a page between us. My fingers still hurt from several nights of typing. I stopped caring. Abigail tapped one more line. "Please stop staring." I grinned. "Several nights of typing earned me this. I'm collecting the full reward." Her phone answered. "Shameless." She was smiling when it said it. That afternoon, in the library's empty study room, I introduced Abigail to Savannah and Tori properly. "Abigail is the quiet library volunteer I told you about," I explained. "She uses books and this app to speak." Savannah studied Abigail's face. Tori studied my face. Then Tori pointed at the phone. "You disappeared for days to build that?" Nodded. "I typed the whole book." Savannah took the phone and scrolled. Her smile became dangerous. "You worked this hard for another girl?" I asked both girlfriends to let Abigail join us. Tori crossed her arms. "You can't keep finding soulmates and acting like the rest of us are furniture." Savannah added. "What happens when girlfriend number 10 arrives?" I answered with the worst analogy available. "Finding oil under one property does not make the oil under another property less valuable." Silence. Tori stared at me. "Did you just compare us to oil fields?" I raised both hands. "In my defense, oil is valuable." Savannah covered her mouth and laughed. Abigail's phone announced. "That was extremely strange. Even the quiet girl cooked me." "Fair." I abandoned the analogy and named what I had noticed. Savannah always touched her left earring when she was nervous. Tori baked cookies when she wanted praise but could not ask for it. Abigail folded the top corner of a page when a scene made her happy. I noticed all of it. "Adding someone does not erase what I notice about you," I told them. "If I ever treat any of you like a number, I'll accept the punishment." Tori narrowed her eyes. "Which punishment?" I linked pinkies with all three and repeated my seppuku vow. Savannah sighed. "He really has one threat." Abigail's phone answered. "It is memorable." Savannah accepted first. She told Abigail that jealousy came with the package. Abigail would still have a place beside them. Tori accepted next. "Don't hide behind the phone when you're upset," Tori warned. "Use it and tell us." Abigail tapped 2 words. "I promise." My girlfriend count rose from 2 to 3. Then Savannah asked Abigail about kissing. Savannah explained that she liked grabbing my collar before a kiss because my surprised face amused her. Tori denied having a habit until Savannah pointed out that Tori always squeezed my sleeve first. Tori nearly launched the phone through a wall. I confirmed both observations because honesty had already ruined my chance of survival. Abigail listened, glanced at my mouth, and immediately hid behind the screen. Savannah caught the glance. "Oh, she understands the topic." Abigail turned bright red and selected a sentence carefully. "I want to save my first kiss for marriage." I told her I would wait as long as she wanted. Tori watched my face for disappointment. She found none. Tori relaxed after that answer. A few days later, after class in an empty clubroom, I tried to help Abigail relax around the group. I brought cards and invented one rule: lose a round, and the winner gets to tickle you for 5 seconds. Savannah deliberately played the wrong card. Tori accused her of throwing the game, then deliberately lost the next round even harder. Both held out their hands before I even announced the penalty. Subtlety had left the building. Savannah won the 3rd round and attacked Tori's sides. Tori kicked the table, which sent the cards into my face. Then Savannah lost and told me to tickle her. I did. She laughed so hard that she crossed her legs and begged me to stop before she embarrassed herself. The bold flirt had finally found a threat she respected, her own bladder. Abigail sat beside us with both hands over her mouth. I thought she was uncomfortable. Then her phone spoke. I am laughing. That made all three of us laugh harder. Abigail won the last round. Savannah leaned toward me. Go ahead, claim your prize. Tori turned red and pretended she was not watching. Abigail raised one finger and gently poked my side. That was all. Savannah went still. Then she pointed at Abigail. That is dangerous. Tori blinked. She poked him. Savannah nodded. Exactly. She is not even trying. Abigail hid behind her phone. Abigail had poked me once. Savannah was already treating her like the final boss. I left to buy drinks after the game. When I returned early, I heard raised voices inside the clubroom. I stopped outside the door instead of barging in. Tori stood in front of Abigail with her hands on her hips. You keep acting like you don't belong, Tori told her. That makes Liam worry, and then he works himself half to death. Abigail's phone answered softly. I am less beautiful. Talking to me is difficult. I thought he would forget me. Savannah sat beside her. She pointed at the phone. Liam typed an entire novel because he wanted your eyes on him. That man forgets homework. He didn't forget you. Tori nodded. And stop calling yourself less beautiful. You're making the rest of us defend you, which is annoying. That was Tori's love language, aggression with useful content. Abigail finally smiled without hiding it. I knocked with the drinks and stepped inside. Abigail looked at Savannah, then Tori. Both girls nodded. She opened the app and selected a new sentence. I changed my mind. I want my first kiss now, she asked me directly. I waited for her to move first. Abigail stepped forward and kissed me. The girl who once needed a book between us chose the moment herself. Savannah immediately raised her hand. I support this beautiful growth. I also require reassurance. Tori shoved her aside. You got fed at lunch yesterday. I'm first, Abigail's phone announced. Please do not fight. So I kissed Savannah, then Tori. That ended the argument for almost 10 seconds. Savannah said she felt lucky. Tori muttered that I was lucky. Abigail's app corrected both of them. We are all lucky. Abigail left the clubroom between Savannah and Tori, still holding my hand. The next morning, a perfect scoring girl looked at romance the way normal people looked at spam email. Then the soulmate spark hit again. The next morning, biology class paired me with Westbridge Academy's top student. Her name was Reese Talbot. Reese had just scored 100 on an exam everyone else hated, and she was already correcting the answer key. The teacher checked her note, erased one printed answer, and thanked her through clenched teeth. A student behind me whispered that Reese had never missed a question at Westbridge. Another moved his paper farther away like perfection might be contagious. Students called her a human calculator. Then she looked at me. The soulmate spark hit. Reese's pencil stopped for 1 second. Then she wrote another equation like destiny had interrupted something important. Our teacher handed us a simple lab assignment. Reese opened the textbook, copied the expected result, and started packing her bag. I blocked the page. We haven't done the experiment. Reese tapped the answer. The result is printed here. Repeating the process wastes time. I tried the experiment anyway and nicked my finger on the equipment. Reese caught my hand before I could reach for a tissue. Then she put the cut finger in her mouth. I forgot every scientific fact I had ever learned. Tori, my walking denial machine, saw the whole thing from the next table. What are you doing to him? She snapped. Reese released my hand. Saliva can reduce surface contamination. Tori grabbed my wrist and wiped it with 3 disinfecting pads. You don't disinfect a boyfriend by eating him, Tori warned. Reese considered that. Your method used more supplies. Tori looked ready to use the remaining supplies as weapons. Look, I need you to understand how dangerous Reese was. She could turn accidental flirting into an efficiency report. After class, I asked her to spend Saturday with me. Reese adjusted her bag. Leisure produces no measurable return, countered. Fun is a return. Reese shook her head. Fun ends. I pointed toward the classroom. So does class. You still showed up. That earned me a 2-second stare. Then Reese refused the date and walked away. The soulmate spark had found a girl who treated romance as wasted time. The next morning, Reese placed a notebook on my desk. Every page was covered with digits of pi. She told me she normally wrote them to restore concentration. The problem was that she had spent the entire night thinking about me between every line. Her own focus routine had become inefficient. Reese looked annoyed by the evidence. I love you, she told me. Dating you would still waste time. That confession broke several laws of romance at once. I told Reese I loved her too. Then I asked for one day to prove that shared enjoyment had value. One day, she agreed. If you fail, this topic ends. Good. I had one day, one genius, and no backup plan. Saturday morning, outside the amusement park, Reese arrived exactly 3 minutes early. She wore a simple outfit and still looked unfairly good. I stared for half a second too long. Reese checked her watch. Are you experiencing a delay? I cleared my throat. In my defense, the outfit was winning the argument. Her ears turned pink. She walked toward the entrance before I could enjoy the result. I brought an instant camera and kept my phone in my bag. Every print was the only copy of that moment. Lose it and the picture was gone. Reese called the camera inferior to a phone. Then I photographed her criticizing it. The first picture caught her mid-frown. She tried to take it away. I kept it. Our first stop was the haunted house, and Reese defeated it before the first scare landed. She named the wire before the fake corpse dropped, then told the masked actor his timing was late. The actor looked personally attacked. On the teacups, Reese calculated the shortest rotation. I spun us the other way, caught her first laugh in a photo, and refused the statistically unflattering retake she demanded. Inside the maze, Reese solved every turn from the wall angles and reached the exit in under a minute. Then she noticed I had stayed behind. So inefficient, Reese muttered as she came back and took my hand. I squeezed her fingers. Yet you returned. Reese tightened her grip and refused to answer. I walked backward until I led us into a dead end. Reese pointed at the wall. You ignored the optimal route. I admitted, yes. She narrowed her eyes. Why? I pulled her toward the next turn. Because now we get to solve one together. Reese stared at me, took my hand again, and chose the next path. The Ferris wheel became the real test. Once our car rose above the park, her shoulders locked. The human calculator was afraid of heights. I held out my hand. Reese took it with both of hers and kept her eyes closed until we reached the ground. Then she restored her professional expression. I acknowledge that your hand had temporary utility, Reese announced. I smiled. Careful, that sounded romantic. Reese adjusted her sleeve. It was medical. Tori would have respected the denial. At sunset, we sat beside a fountain with the instant photos spread between us. Reese admitted the day had been fun. Then she repeated that fun had no lasting value. I picked up the photos and held a lighter beneath them. Reese's face changed. I reminded her, these are the only copies. She told me burning them would be irrational. I flicked the lighter on. The flames stayed several inches away, but Reese had to choose. She lunged across the bench and grabbed the photos against her chest. One corner bent beneath her fingers. Her eyes filled before she could hide it. Reese looked down at the first picture, the one where she had been frowning at the camera. I want to keep them, she admitted. Then she looked at me. I want to keep making them with you. She asked me to become her boyfriend. I said yes. Reese kissed me beside the fountain, then immediately inspected the bent photo for damage. Efficiency was cooked. That evening, I brought Reese to meet my other 3 girlfriends. I explained that Reese had felt the same soulmate spark and asked whether they would accept her beside us. Savannah, my bold first girlfriend, asked whether Reese had enjoyed our private date. Reese answered, yes. Savannah's smile tightened. Tori muttered, too honest, dangerous. Abigail's phone welcomed Reese to the group. Savannah made Reese promise that future experiments would not involve putting random parts of me in her mouth. Reese replied, that request lacks scientific scope. Tori stepped between them. Say yes before I expand the scope of the chair. Reese agreed. Savannah accepted her. Tori accepted while pretending the chair had done the negotiating. I repeated my usual self-punishment vow if I ever treated anyone unfairly. Reese improved the plan by recommending poison because it would be faster than seppuku. I stared at her. She stared back. The human calculator had joined the family and immediately optimized my death threat. Savannah decided our next outing needed to include everyone. A water park, she announced. No more private dates until the rest of us recover. The next day at school, Tori arrived carrying 3 swimsuit bags and refusing to explain any of them. She had packed 3 choices and still refused to pick one. The following weekend, at the water park, Savannah and Reese walked out in swimsuits and asked for my opinion. I had one brain and it resigned. Savannah turned once and watched my reaction. Reese watched my face and called the reaction measurable approval. Abigail hid behind a large float, blushing but smiling. Tori wore a cover dress over her swimsuit and kept both hands near the zipper. Each time I looked over, she checked Savannah and Reese instead. We entered the whirlpool first. Savannah slid beside me and wrapped both arms around mine. This water is cold, she murmured. It was warm enough to cook soup. Reese observed the contact and copied it from the other side. The human calculator applied too much pressure. Savannah saw Reese copying her and squeezed harder. My vision faded beneath 4 determined arms and one terrible life choice. I went limp against the edge. I had only gone limp from overload. Savannah treated the situation like a full medical emergency anyway. She leaned in for enthusiastic mouth-to-mouth, while Reese insisted on finding a lifeguard. That was when 3 older boys blocked Reese's path. One looked Reese over and told her to stay with them instead. Another grabbed Savannah's wrist when she tried to move around him. The loudest laughed at my unconscious body and claimed neither girl could possibly be dating me. They had insulted Reese, grabbed Savannah, and mocked me in public. By then, I wanted the answer to be equally public. Reese jabbed 2 fingers into the first boy's eyes and forced him backward. Savannah twisted free, but the second boy stepped in again. Tori saw the confrontation from across the pool. She grabbed my shoulder and shouted that Savannah and Reese were in danger. Adrenaline snapped me awake. I stood between the boys and my girlfriends. The loudest one looked at Savannah, then Reese, and laughed again. "You expect us to believe both of them are yours?" he demanded. I did not need a speech. Savannah kissed my cheek where he could see. Reese studied her, then kissed the other side with perfect seriousness. The surrounding swimmers started watching. The loudest boy looked around. His laugh died. One muttered that I had impossible main character energy. Another called me a gigachad like it was a medical diagnosis. All 3 backed away. A lifeguard reached us after the damage was done and kept them from stepping forward again. The boys backed off, but the pool was still missing one person. I looked around and realized Abigail was gone. Her large float drifted empty near the far side. I ran toward the whirlpool channel because that was where I had last seen her. I found Abigail in a deeper pocket with the broken float strap beside her. Her phone flashed red while she tried to make the speaking app call for help. The app was too quiet under the water and crowd noise. The battery dropped again. Abigail looked toward the people passing above her. Then she used her own voice. "Liam!" The sound was high, small, and completely clear. I heard it. I jumped in, reached her, and carried her out against my chest. Abigail coughed, gripped my shirt, and called my name again without the app. Savannah and Reese rushed over. Tori shoved towels into my hands. Abigail looked at all of them, then kissed me in front of the entire pool. Savannah wiped her eyes and immediately demanded equal attention later. Savannah was already scheduling her own kiss. Once Abigail was safe, I turned to Tori. She was still wearing the cover dress. I asked why. Tori glanced toward Savannah and Reese. "The others look better." I reached for the zipper, and Tori caught my wrist. I told her, "I want to see the swimsuit you chose." She held my gaze for several seconds, then she released me. I removed the cover. Tori watched my face for disappointment. My face heated. My heartbeat jumped hard enough that she noticed from a step away. "You look beautiful," I told her. "You look like Tori. That is the part I wanted." She pressed 2 fingers against my pulse to check whether I was lying. The rhythm answered before I could. Tori's shoulders loosened. Then she grabbed my hand and pulled me into the pool before Savannah could make another comment. Her cover dress stayed behind on the chair. Tori kept hold of my hand as she joined the others. I thought the human calculator was my strangest girlfriend. Then I met a chemist whose warning labels had warning labels. One bad cup of tea turned my whole love life into a 1-hour survival game. The next afternoon, I passed Westbridge Academy's chemistry lab and felt the soulmates spark through the open doorway. A childlike student in an oversized lab coat looked up from her work. The same shock caught her. I returned the following day because destiny had already made ignoring that spark a terrible idea. The room belonged to Lexi Caro, the chemistry club president and Westbridge's smallest walking safety violation. She held out a steaming beaker. "Tea," Lexi announced. "Drink." I asked what was inside. Lexi pushed the rim against my mouth. "Science. That should have been enough warning." I drank anyway. In my defense, I had survived 100 rejections. Apparently, basic caution had died during number 73. Lexi watched me swallow and turned pink again. Then every metal object in the lab flew at me. Spoons slapped my sleeves, scissors stuck to my belt. A rolling stool crossed the room and crashed into my legs. I grabbed the counter before a microscope joined the relationship. Lexi clapped once. "The human magnet medicine works." I stared at her. "You tested it on me? You were available. Beautiful." I had become unpaid lab equipment. Lexi drank from another vial and smiled confidently. Her medicine gave her the opposite magnetic charge. That pulled her straight across the floor and pinned her against me. We stayed stuck together while loose tools rattled around us. Lexi checked a timer. 10 minutes. I looked at the timer. "We're attached for 10 minutes? Lexi nodded against my chest. "The effect is very reliable." Her feet were off the floor. My dignity soon joined them. I asked about side effects. Lexi answered like she was reading a grocery list. "My dose causes emergency diaper use. Yours causes constipation for 3 days. I went silent. Lexi pointed toward a cabinet stacked with colored bottles. "I have medicine for that too." Every bottle carried a handwritten warning. Several warnings had smaller warnings beneath them. "Look, I need you to understand the situation. This girl put disclaimers on the disclaimers and still thought the product was ready." When the timer ended, the metal dropped. Lexi landed on her feet and immediately offered me another drink. I covered my mouth. "Explain first." Her smile slipped. Then Lexi admitted the first beaker had contained more than magnet medicine. She had added a love potion after feeling the soulmate spark. Lexi admitted she had panicked after the soulmate spark. She used the potion because she wanted a guaranteed yes before I could reject her. That crossed the line. I forced myself to vomit the potion into the sink. My stomach cramped. My knees hit the floor. Lexi grabbed my shoulders while my body shook against the counter. "Liam, stop, you'll hurt yourself." I kept going until nothing remained. The potion could fake attraction. I needed it gone before I could know whether I chose Lexi. My vision blurred. Lexi pulled a clear vial from her pocket. This neutralizer cancels the love potion. My jaw had locked. She took the neutralizer into her mouth and pressed it between my lips. The medicine went down. My breathing steadied almost immediately. Lexi pulled back and stared at me with wet eyes. If the potion is gone, she whispered, you might hate me now. The neutralizer hit her too. Light wrapped around Lexi's body. Her childlike form stretched into an older version of herself. The coat finally fit. I forgot how sentences worked. Lexi caught me staring and folded her arms. Are you experiencing another side effect? I cleared my throat. In my defense, that transformation came without a warning label. She almost smiled. Then Lexi explained the only rule I needed. A failed immortality drug kept her trapped in the smaller form while she researched. The neutralizer temporarily restored her older body. I checked my chest. The soulmate pull remained. So did my feelings. I stood and faced her. Then I told Lexi, I hated the potion. I still like you. She blinked several times. I asked her to date me without drugs, tricks, or chemical shortcuts. Lexi threw both arms around me. Lexi shouted, yes. Her answer hit harder because the potion had already failed. Later that day, I introduced Lexi to my 4 girlfriends in an empty club room. Savannah, my bold first girlfriend, inspected the oversized lab coat. Tori, my blunt protector, inspected Lexi like she expected an explosion. Abigail held her speaking phone ready. Reese studied every bottle before Lexi set it down. I explained the soulmate spark, the potion, and the neutralizer. Tori pointed at Lexi. You drugged him! Lexi lowered her head. Yes! Savannah grabbed my chin and checked my eyes. And you still chose her afterward? I answered yes. Abigail's phone spoke next. No more forced medicine. Reese added, future testing requires consent and a written label Liam can understand. Tori stared at Reese. You made consent sound like homework. Reese replied, he needs simple instructions. My own girlfriends had formed a safety committee against me. Fair. Lexi promised to ask first. The group accepted her. Then she opened the drug case. That peaceful decision lasted 6 seconds. Lexi offered Tori a chest growth medicine. Tori slapped the vial out of her hand. I don't need that. Savannah leaned closer. You reached for it. Tori shoved Savannah into a chair. Lexi moved to her next demonstration. She sprayed Savannah with a medicine labeled hotness. Heat rolled off Savannah so quickly that the outer layer of her clothes began melting at the seams. I threw my jacket around her. Savannah smiled through the smoke. You reacted fast, I told her. The situation was winning the argument. Tori demanded the same jacket while wearing perfectly intact clothes. Jealousy remained the strongest chemical in the room. Lexi gave Abigail a fantasy medicine. Soft rabbit ears appeared above Abigail's hair. Savannah touched one. Abigail jumped high enough to knock 3 cards off the table. Her phone yelled, sensitive! Tori touched the other ear before Abigail could escape. Abigail's phone upgraded the warning to, very sensitive. Lexi finally gave Reese a hair control medicine. Reese's hair split into moving strands and began sorting the drug case by label size. The human calculator had acquired extra arms and immediately used them for filing. Lexi warned that overuse could cause baldness. Every strand froze. Reese released the medicine at once. She valued efficiency. She valued hair more. Once the bottles were closed, Lexi showed us a sealed envelope. She was preparing a sample for an overseas research team and wanted a place in their program. For once, her voice lost the chaos. Lexi told us, I want my medicine to help people. Eventually. The word eventually did heavy work. Lexi set 2 tea containers on the table. A small beaker sat beside my seat. A large pitcher sat beside the girls. She opened her mouth to explain the difference. Then her earlier side effect attacked. Lexi grabbed her stomach and sprinted toward the bathroom. The diaper plan had failed. Lexi sprinted. Savannah looked at my special beaker. Why does Liam get different tea? Tori picked it up. Because the chemist is shameless. Before I could stop them, Savannah took a sip. Tori took the beaker from her and drank too. Reese sampled it to identify the difference. Abigail followed because everyone else had already made the mistake. Lexi returned as I pulled the beaker away. Her face went white. Lexi grabbed the beaker. That one was for Liam. I stared at her. What did you put in it? Lexi admitted it was supposed to make me desperate to kiss her. I told her I would kiss her willingly. That should have been a sweet moment. Savannah grabbed my collar before I finished the sentence. Tori seized my arm. Abigail's phone repeated the word kiss until the speaker distorted. Reese calculated the shortest path to my mouth. The drug had reacted differently inside women. Lexi gave me 3 brutal facts while we backed toward the door. The drug amplified desire until it drowned out every other trait. After 1 hour, the loss could become permanent. The cure was in Lexi's lab. A timer started on Lexi's phone. 59 minutes and 58 seconds remained. My 4 girlfriends lunged. Lexi and I ran for the lab. The hallway became a romantic survival game with terrible consent settings. Savannah ripped a door from its stopper. Tori kicked through a maintenance cart. Reese predicted our turns before we made them. Abigail moved silently enough to appear beside me without warning. The timer dropped below 40 minutes. Savannah still flirted while bending metal. Tori still yelled at her. Reese kept correcting their route. Abigail reached for my hand before every kiss attempt. Their normal habits were disappearing. Only the urge to kiss me kept getting stronger. For one embarrassing second, I enjoyed the attention. Then Savannah bent a railing with one hand. Fantasy over. I preferred my girlfriends with personalities. Lexi reached into her coat and pulled out face-melting medicine. I knocked her hand down. Absolutely not. Vice Principal Crenshaw rounded the corner at that exact moment. The punishment monster saw 4 students sprinting and charged toward us. Lexi panicked and sprayed her. Crenshaw's makeup absorbed the medicine without moving. Lexi stared. That should melt a face. Crenshaw covered her cheeks and crawled backward behind a trophy case. She would rather abandon authority than reveal what lived beneath that makeup. The divine mystery of Crenshaw's real face survived another day. Our pursuers split around the stairwell. I sent Lexi toward the lab while the countdown kept falling. I told her, I'll keep them busy. She grabbed my sleeve. They'll crush you. I answered. Then work fast. I ran the opposite direction and shouted their names. All 4 followed. The decoy worked until Abigail slipped on a fallen folder and struck her head against the wall. I stopped immediately. I checked the injury and held a cloth against it. Abigail opened her eyes. Then she kissed me 3 times before I could move. I wrapped my jacket around her arms and held her safely against the wall. Her phone kept saying, Kiss Liam, I told her. I'll give you as many as you want after you're yourself again. The promise slowed her for 1 second. That second saved me. Tori appeared above the stairs and launched Savannah directly at my chest. Savannah pinned my shoulders. Tori landed beside us and grabbed my face. Both kissed me while arguing over who had reached me first. Their rivalry had survived the drug. There was my loophole. I told Savannah that Tori had stolen more kisses. I told Tori that Savannah was smiling about it. Both turned on each other. They lunged from opposite sides. I ducked. Savannah and Tori collided mouth first. Their eyes widened. I escaped while their pride rebooted. At the chemistry lab, Reese had already beaten Lexi there. The human calculator predicted the cure route and blocked every exit. Lexi found 1 partial reversing dose and drank enough to regain her older form. She tried to walk past Reese as an unfamiliar senior student. Reese looked at the oversized diaper bag hanging from her shoulder. Lexi, Reese stated. The disguise lasted 1 sentence. Reese tied her to a chair with extension cords. Lexi's confidence collapsed. She admitted every reckless experiment had driven students away from the club. Now the first people who accepted her might lose themselves because of another shortcut. I reached the lab door before Reese could take the actual cure, so I called Reese's name and ran. She followed exactly as predicted. Reese cornered me inside an empty classroom and kissed me with both hands on my face. I stopped resisting long enough to keep her away from Lexi. Meanwhile, the partial dose wore off. Lexi shrank inside the extension cords. The loose loops dropped around her smaller body, and she slipped free. She grabbed the silver cure vial, found us, and pressed it against Reese's neck. The medicine made Reese's knees fold as it cleared the kiss obsession. I caught her before she hit the floor. Then Lexi and I used the remaining cure on Savannah, Tori, and Abigail. The timer stopped with several minutes left. Minutes later, we carried everyone to Westbridge's infirmary. My girlfriends woke one by one while Lexi waited beside the door, ready to leave. Savannah claimed she remembered nothing. Then she refused to look at Tori. Tori also claimed amnesia while wiping Savannah's lipstick from her mouth. Abigail hid behind her phone. Reese opened one eye and stated the exact number of kisses she had taken. Nobody had forgotten anything. They were simply cooked by embarrassment. Lexi bowed her head and apologized. She apologized to Savannah for the ripped door and to Tori for the collision. Abigail got a direct apology for the head injury. Reese got one for the sedative. Lexi reached for the door. Savannah blocked it and asked what she planned to do next. Lexi said the club would be safer if she stopped researching. I pointed at the 4 girlfriends she had cured. Your mistake caused this, I told her. Your medicine also saved them. Lexi looked up. I promised we would face her mistakes together. Then I told her to keep the dream and lose the shortcuts. Savannah took Lexi's hand first. Tori warned that the next unapproved potion would be inserted somewhere medically inconvenient. Abigail's phone welcomed Lexi again. Reese began rewriting every warning label in larger print. Lexi stayed. Savannah decided our next group outing would be a flower park wedding contest. After Lexi, we should have known better. The next weekend, Savannah brought us to a flower park for a public bouquet contest. The prize was one staged wedding photo with a dress, a suit, and enough flowers to bankrupt a normal teenager. Savannah read the sign twice. Then she looked at me like the photographer had already booked our anniversary. I want that picture, she told me. Tori crossed her arms. You want every picture where Liam wears a suit. Savannah smiled. Correct. Lexi had recovered from the kiss zombie disaster and promised not to medicate the flowers. Reese checked the contest rules. Abigail held our registration cards while her speaking phone wished everyone luck. I tied the family's entry sash to a wooden pole and raised it like a flag. Savannah cheered. Tori called it embarrassing, then stood directly beneath it. We had a family flag, 5 girlfriends, and 0 understanding of how serious bouquet combat could become. A group of oversized contestants entered next and called themselves the Gorilla Crew. They treated a flower park game like demolition work. Their leader looked at Abigail, then at our flag. The gorilla leader mocked us. "Small team," Tori stepped forward. "Mock Abigail again, and I'll fold you before the flowers land." That greeting established the mood. Vice Principal Crenshaw climbed onto the throwing platform. The organizers had made the punishment monster the event official. Her only rule was simple: no violence between contestants. Crenshaw launched the bouquet hard enough to whistle. The Gorilla Crew moved first. One member shoulder-checked a contestant and called it balance training. Another threw her teammate through the crowd and called it flight training. Their leader blocked Savannah's path and called that defensive training. They had discovered crime with fitness vocabulary. Crenshaw looked away while the bouquet was already crossing the park. Tori grabbed the gorilla leader around the waist. The leader shouted that grappling was forbidden. Tori tightened the hold. "This is correction training." She dragged the woman away and cleared our route. Savannah ran beneath the bouquet. Reese calculated its landing point. Abigail kept pace near the back while the larger teams ignored her. The Gorilla Crew formed a circle and spun their jackets. Their wind pushed every contestant away from the center. Then the vortex caught Abigail. She flew straight upward. Her phone yelled, "This was not the plan!" Abigail reached both hands out. The bouquet dropped into them. The Gorilla Crew's best attack had delivered our quiet librarian directly to the prize. Beautiful. They had speed-run their own loss. The wind died. Abigail fell. She bounced off Savannah, clipped Reese, landed against Tori, and kept dropping. The family had accidentally installed 3 emergency cushions. I caught Abigail before she reached the ground. She hugged the bouquet against my chest while her phone announced, "We won." The crowd's laughter flipped into cheers. The gorilla leader stared at her own spinning teammates. Tori released her and dusted off her hands. "Great training," Tori told her. The woman had no comeback left. Catching the bouquet qualified our group for the final draw. The rule was 1 stick per contestant. The marked stick won the wedding photo. Savannah reached into the box with suspicious confidence. Then Reese decided the draw was inefficient and separated the whole bundle at once. Savannah's fingers missed the position she wanted. She glared at Reese. Reese handed everyone 1 stick. This saved 4 seconds. Savannah opened her hand. Her stick still carried the winning mark. Lexi saw the wedding dress and started crying. She admitted she had always wanted to wear one, even for a fake picture. Savannah looked at the dress, then at Lexi. She offered Lexi the winner's place. Lexi cried harder. Then Savannah turned toward the photographer. Savannah told him, "We're all taking it." The photographer tried to explain the package covered 1 couple. Savannah pointed at the 5 girlfriends around me. "Then use a wider lens." The photographer handed Savannah the delivery envelope for the finished picture. She wrote Porter Estate across the front while still arguing about the lens. 10 minutes later, I stood in the center while every girlfriend crowded into the frame. Lexi wore the wedding dress. Savannah held one side of the veil and gripped my arm like she had donated the prize, not me. Tori took my other arm. Abigail held the bouquet. Reese adjusted everyone by height and called it visual efficiency. The camera flashed. For 1 perfect second, the family looked permanent. Afterward, Savannah pulled me aside and admitted she had scratched the winning stick earlier. Reese's bundle trick had ruined the location, so Savannah had won by chance anyway. She laughed once. Then her face went empty. Savannah looked at me. "Liam, break up with me!" Thought I had misheard her. Savannah repeated it. She pressed the fresh wedding photo into my hand and walked away before I could stop her. She gave me no argument, warning, or explanation. The highest point of the day lasted 1 camera flash. That evening, an unfamiliar number called me. Savannah whispered from inside the Porter estate, her family's gated mansion. Her mother, Miranda Porter, had confiscated her phone after seeing our relationship. Miranda rejected the entire family arrangement. A private car was coming that night to take Savannah away. Savannah had found a hidden staff phone and called before the battery died. "Don't come," Savannah whispered. "She'll destroy your life." The line cut. I remembered the delivery envelope and the 2 words Savannah had written across it, Porter Estate. I went straight to the Porter Estate. A guard met me outside the gate. I told him I needed to see Savannah. He grabbed my arm, forced me against the stone wall, and called me unworthy of Miranda Porter's daughter. He said boys like me disappeared the moment wealthy families applied pressure. For several seconds, I believed the ugliest part. 100 rejections had trained me to accept that I was the person people left. Then I saw a 4-leaf clover growing beside the gate. Savannah had once taken one from my dirty hand and trusted me anyway. I pulled free. The guard shoved me onto the road. I stood up and called the others. I told them Miranda had locked Savannah inside and planned to remove her that night. Savannah had tried to protect us by leaving alone. I refused the sacrifice. When I announced that I was entering the estate, Tori answered first. Tori snapped. Obviously we're coming. Reese tightened her bandage kit. Savannah protected me at the water park. Abigail's phone added. She told me I belonged. Lexi packed medicine and promised to label everything. She stayed after my worst experiment. Miranda had taken one of us. All 5 of us returned after dark. Our first plan was throwing a small ball against Savannah's window. A cat leaped from the wall and slapped the ball into a fountain. Then it strutted through a pet door like it had completed a security drill. Reese watched the latch move behind it. 2 garden stones popped the lock, opening the door, but one sliced her thumb. Tori wrapped the cut before Reese could dismiss it. Savannah protected you, Tori snapped. Stop wasting the debt. Inside the garden, a guard dog cornered Abigail and ignored the rest of us. Lexi shoved a sleep potion into Abigail's hand without explaining it. Abigail drank it. Lexi nearly died inside, and the spill on Abigail's fingers knocked the dog out when it licked her. Abigail's phone asked, "Was that correct?" Lexi nodded too quickly. Eventually. The same cat slipped through an open window and triggered the hallway alarm. Guards found it on a cabinet and blamed the animal instead of us. The infiltration continued through sheer disrespect for planning. At the inner corridor, Reese caught tiny red reflections moving across the polished wall and identified infrared beams. Lexi opened the sealed sample meant for her overseas research application. My application can survive without this, Lexi told me. Savannah cannot leave tonight. She put the drops in my eyes. Bright beams covered the corridor, leaving one narrow route near the ceiling. Tori tied us together, climbed first, and carried most of our weight. I followed beneath her because the route had no respect for personal space. My face stayed pressed against her while we moved in rhythm. Tori looked down. "Mention this later and I kill you," whispered. "You're the one holding me here." Her grip tightened hard enough to prove the threat. We crossed the final beam and reached Savannah's door. I opened it. The alarm screamed. The room was empty. Guards flooded the corridor before we could move. They dragged the whole group into a sitting room and forced us to our knees. That was where Savannah's mother finally faced me in person. Miranda Porter owned the estate, the guards, and the decision threatening Savannah's future. She carried herself like every room had already agreed with her. Miranda asked why I thought I deserved her daughter. I told her Savannah had chosen me. Miranda's expression hardened. Then she explained the wound behind her control. Miranda had loved Savannah's father when both were painfully young. He was dying. She used the only medical chance they had to have his child before he was gone. Miranda became a mother at 13 and spent the rest of her youth carrying grief alone. She feared Savannah had inherited the same reckless devotion. Miranda believed loving me would leave Savannah abandoned and broken. The room stayed quiet. While Miranda spoke, the infrared effect faded. I finally saw her eyes clearly. The soulmate shock hit both of us. Miranda grabbed the arm of her chair. Then Miranda blurted, "Would you go out with me?" Every guard looked away. Tori made a sound usually heard before violence. Miranda covered her mouth and recovered her authority. Reese stared at her. Abigail's phone made a tiny error sound. Lexi checked whether any medicine had leaked. Tori pointed between Miranda and me. "That spark happened, didn't it?" Miranda refused to answer. Her hand still gripped the chair hard enough to whiten her knuckles. Miranda insisted, "That changes nothing. You will still leave Savannah." I answered, "I won't." The god of love had stopped cooking and started committing crimes against family dinners. Miranda brought out a lie detector because she trusted machines more than teenagers. The device only confirmed statements. Miranda still controlled what happened next. She tested Tori first. Miranda asked whether Tori's cup size was smaller than Savannah's. Tori answered no. The machine buzzed false. Miranda asked whether Tori had considered padding her swimsuit. Tori answered no again. The machine buzzed false again. Miranda asked whether Tori envied Savannah's body. Tori shouted, "Absolutely not." The detector called that false too. Savannah was missing, and her mother had still found time to roast Tori through electronics. Then Miranda asked whether Tori loved me. Tori muttered, "Obviously enough." The machine buzzed false. Her face drained. I reached for her hand. Tori grabbed my collar instead. Tori shouted, "I love this idiot more than I can say. Break every wall in this estate before I let you take him from us." The detector rang true. Tori released me and dared anyone to comment. Nobody had that kind of courage. Miranda turned the question on me. "Do you love Tori?" "Yes," I answered. The detector lit true. I took the chair next. Miranda asked whether I would make Savannah happy. I answered yes. The machine lit true again. Miranda asked whether I would risk my life for her daughter. "I already decided that," I told her. The true light stayed on. Miranda still refused. A staff member rushed into the room. She had found Savannah's bedroom empty and seen her standing on the roof from the courtyard. Tori moved before Miranda could. She locked both arms around Savannah's mother and held her against the chair. Tori shouted, "Liam, go!" Minutes later, I reached the Porter Estate roof. Savannah stood beyond the railing. The private car waited below the front drive. She looked at me and started crying. "If I stay, my mother will destroy everything around you," Savannah told me. "You'll lose school, your friends, your future." Stepped closer. Savannah moved backward. I told her life without her would cost more than anything Miranda could take. Savannah shook her head. Then she stepped off the roof. I jumped after her. My hand caught her wrist. The impact tore through my shoulder and pulled me over the edge. Savannah begged me to release her before we both died. My grip tightened. "I searched all night for your Clover," I told her. "I'm not dropping you now." The fountain sat below and several yards away. I kicked hard against the estate wall. The desperate push changed our fall just enough. We missed the stone courtyard and crashed into the fountain. Water swallowed us. My back struck the fountain floor. My injured shoulder nearly tore again under Savannah's weight. Pain hit every part of my body at once. Savannah surfaced coughing and tried to push away so I could breathe. I kept holding her until both our feet found the bottom. The others reached the courtyard seconds later. Abigail rushed into the fountain, slipped, and vanished under the water. The human calculator hauled her upright while Tori dragged Savannah toward the edge. The chemist checked my shoulder and ordered me to stop moving. Miranda stood beside the fountain with no command left. She knelt beside Savannah and finally released the order separating us. Miranda whispered, "You may stay with him." Savannah grabbed her mother and cried against her. Then I looked at Miranda. The soulmate pull still existed. Her grief did too. I told her Savannah's happiness did not require Miranda's loneliness. Savannah lifted her head and took her mother's hand. She told Miranda to stop treating her own life like a punishment. Miranda looked at me. "You are asking to date your girlfriend's mother." I admitted the sentence sounded terrible. Tori pointed at me from the fountain. "It sounds worse from here." Then Tori's expression hardened. "No more guards, locked phones, or money used against us." Abigail's phone added, "No more separating the family." The human calculator and the chemist backed the condition. Miranda agreed. Savannah squeezed her mother's hand. "He means it." I asked Miranda to pursue her own happiness and date me honestly. Miranda said yes. My girlfriend count reached 6. The guards who had forced us to our knees now stood silent. Miranda joined the family she had tried to break. Savannah was staying. Later that night, I found Miranda praying beside Savannah's dead father's photograph. She had accepted me, but she was still praying to the man she had lost. That night inside the Porter estate, everyone tried to recover from the fountain rescue. Miranda had gone from enemy to girlfriend in one afternoon. The family celebrated by becoming a problem inside her own house. In the estate bath suite, Savannah compared herself with the other girls. She declared victory before anyone agreed there was a contest. Tori argued immediately. Reese tried to define measurable categories. Abigail's phone politely refused to vote. Miranda watched her daughters start a body rivalry and looked far too entertained. I stayed in the attached lounge because my injured shoulder kept me out of the bath. Tori came out in a robe and sat on my stomach. She pressed me down exactly like the infrared corridor had forced us together. "Did you enjoy the climb?" Tori demanded. I looked at the ceiling. "I enjoyed surviving it." Tori leaned closer. "Wrong answer." Lexi opened the door. Tori jumped upright. I dropped into a push-up position beneath her. "Weighted recovery exercise," Tori announced. Lexi looked at my injured shoulder. "That is medically stupid." For once, the chemist was qualified to judge. Miranda's pajama party started an hour later in the main bedroom. Savannah's mother had lost most of her childhood to grief and parenting. Now she attacked missed youth with unlimited money and zero restraint. She dressed me as a princess. The wig reached my waist. The dress had more layers than the estate security system. Savannah took pictures until I covered my face. Tori claimed I looked ridiculous while saving every photo. Abigail's phone called me pretty. Lexi asked whether the dress needed pockets for medicine. Miranda adjusted the ribbon under my chin and looked delighted enough to scare me. She had spent years raising Savannah. Now she was speedrunning every sleepover she had missed. Miranda dressed Reese as the prince because Reese stood the straightest. Reese examined the costume. The jacket restricts shoulder movement. Miranda pushed us together. "The prince wakes the princess with a kiss." My embarrassment finished what the roof fall had started. I fainted backward onto the bed. Reese looked at Miranda. "Is the kiss medically required?" Miranda answered, "Emotionally required." Reese kissed me. I woke up to 6 girlfriends applauding. Look, some men dream about being surrounded by beautiful women. Nobody warns you that those women may put you in a dress and assign your smartest girlfriend the prince role. The next bad idea formed while I escaped toward the bath. Savannah suggested spying on me. Tori objected for 3 seconds, then asked about the best route. Lexi checked the fogged glass first. She could see only my outline, so the group climbed into the attic above the bathroom. Abigail tried to back out. Savannah wrapped her in a blanket so the dust would not touch her and carried her along. That turned Abigail into a very nervous human role. I heard footsteps above the ceiling while washing. After a literal god of love and one haunted-looking estate, I assumed the noise came from a ghost. I grabbed the nearest wooden bucket and challenged the ceiling. The attic board cracked. Blanket-wrapped Abigail rolled through the opening, down the stairs and into the bathroom. My towel chose that exact moment to fall. Abigail saw more than her speaking app had vocabulary for. She fainted inside the blanket. I caught her before she hit the tile. Then I looked up. The other 5 girlfriends stared down through the broken ceiling. The entire conspiracy had been caught in one frame. Savannah waved. "Good bath, I threw the bucket." Later that night I found Miranda alone at the estate altar. She was praying beside a photograph of Savannah's father. The laughter had left her face. Miranda told me she still loved him. She had carried that love through his death, through Savannah's childhood, and through every lonely year afterward. Now loving me felt like betraying the man who never got to stay. I sat beside her. I told Miranda to keep loving him and let herself love me too. Her first love had given her Savannah. Her love for me could exist beside that grief. Miranda touched the photograph, then looked at me. She had saved her first kiss for someone who would never leave. Miranda gave it to me at the altar. The kiss was gentle and completely serious. She pulled back with tears in her eyes. "I promised to protect Savannah and her." Near midnight, Savannah came to my room. She was still shaken from the roof. Savannah asked to sleep beside me because closing her eyes made the fall return. I held her against my uninjured side and promised she was safe. She fell asleep gripping my shirt. A few hours later, I woke to kissing sounds beside me. Savannah had rolled across the bed and found Tori, who had fallen asleep nearby. Still dreaming, Savannah kissed Tori and whispered my name. Tori woke mid-kiss. Her face turned red enough to heat the room. She punched my good shoulder because blaming the sleeping girl required emotional honesty. Near dawn, I left Savannah resting and stepped into the hallway. A man stood between me and the altar. After meeting a literal love god, I had lost the right to call ghosts impossible. Savannah's father looked at me with the same eyes as his daughter. His presence pressed cold air through the hall. He asked whether I truly intended to care for both Savannah and Miranda. I answered yes. He studied me for several seconds, then his expression softened. He told me concern for them had kept him near the estate. He thanked me for reopening Miranda's heart and catching Savannah when she fell. The father asked me to protect the 2 women he loved. I promised again. His outline brightened and began to disappear. Then he left with a peaceful smile. The next school day, Miranda turned her wealth into the most shameless proximity move yet. Westbridge Academy announced her as the new controlling board chair. Miranda entered the courtyard wearing an official badge and told me she could now visit every day. Tori stared at the badge. "Rich person stalking is still stalking," Miranda smiled. "It is more comfortable." At lunch, all 6 girlfriends waited for me on the school roof. Savannah held one hand and told me she loved me. Tori took the other and said the lie detector had already proven her answer. Abigail's phone said, "I love you too." Reese called the family arrangement statistically unstable and personally valuable. Lexi promised safer medicine and squeezed my sleeve. Tori made her define safer. Miranda promised nothing involving restraint and stole a kiss before Savannah could object. That woman had learned confidence quickly. The roof scene closed the worst week of my life. Then the calendar committed violence. 1 year later, Savannah worried our relationship had become predictable. The adaptation order was already broken, so the director could take the blame. We were back on Westbridge's roof when Lexi produced a personality refresh drug. She claimed it would bring novelty into long relationships. Savannah reached for the bottle. Lexi dropped it. The drug exploded. Colored smoke swallowed all 6 girlfriends. When the smoke cleared, the 6 familiar bodies were still there. The souls inside them had swapped. Savannah's body grabbed Lexi's medicine case and demanded the emergency diaper bag. That was Lexi's soul. Nobody else could turn panic into pharmaceutical inventory. Tori's body stood quietly and reached for Abigail's speaking phone. That was Abigail. Abigail's body inspected the blast pattern and called the swap inefficient. Reese had landed inside our quiet librarian. Reese's body wrapped both arms around me and asked whether I liked her new look. Only Savannah flirted before checking for injuries. Lexi's small body spun once, laughed at the extra energy, and called Savannah my daughter. Miranda had received the smallest body and looked delighted by the extra energy. Savannah was still inside Reese's body. She pointed at Miranda, who was inside Lexi, and demanded that her mother stop enjoying this. Miranda answered by asking for a child-sized pajama wardrobe. Miranda's body checked its unfamiliar shape, denied being impressed, and threatened anyone who stared. Tori had landed inside Savannah's mother. Lexi had caused all 6 swaps. Still inside Savannah's body, she suggested headbutting might reverse the mistake. Lexi convinced Abigail, trapped inside Tori's body, to try it with her. The borrowed bodies struck foreheads. Both fell backward. Nothing changed except their headache count. I rejected further headbutt science. Miranda's soul, inside Lexi's body, climbed onto a bench and pulled me down. She kissed me before anyone could stop her. A bright outline of Miranda lifted from Lexi's body and hovered above the roof. Savannah, still inside Reese's body, caught Lexi's empty body before it fell. We had found the release rule. One kiss from me could free the soul inside a borrowed body. I started with Reese inside Abigail's body. She had measured the blast radius and corrected Lexi's estimate, so the human calculator had already signed her work. "The cure should proceed in optimal order," Reese said through Abigail's mouth. I kissed Abigail's borrowed lips once, and Reese's light rose free. Lexi's soul was inside Savannah's body. The emergency diaper demand, medicine case grab, and rapid-fire chemist diction left no room for debate. From Savannah's face, Lexi asked whether I had any medicine. One kiss released Lexi's light. Abigail was inside Tori, still reaching for her speaking phone. Her screen read, "Please be gentle." I kissed Tori's borrowed lips, and Abigail's light rose quietly. Tori's soul was inside Miranda's body. She warned me not to enjoy the situation, then checked whether Savannah was watching. That was Tori from every angle. One kiss released her. Savannah was inside Reese, already gripping my collar and demanding the longest cure. I kissed Reese's borrowed lips once, and Savannah's light joined the others. The 6 lights snapped back into their original bodies. Miranda, Reese, Lexi, Abigail, Tori, and Savannah each landed where she belonged. Every girlfriend opened her eyes as herself. I told them the swap had been exciting. Then I admitted I preferred their real habits, real voices, and real bodies. Savannah smiled. Tori looked away. Abigail's phone thanked me. Reese approved the conclusion. Lexi wrote down the cure. Miranda asked for another kiss. The other 5 immediately demanded equal treatment. Apparently, curing them once did not satisfy the warranty. By then, I had 6 girlfriends and 1 supernatural blessing from a dead father. The 7th girl would make me burn my hands for a sandwich, then drag the whole family into a food war. The next lunch at Westbridge Academy took me to the shared cafeteria. Westbridge used one campus for its lower and upper divisions, so the room mixed every age group. I had just survived 6 girlfriends demanding repeat cure kisses. I wanted 10 quiet minutes and 1 egg toast sandwich. Destiny heard that request and laughed. A hooded lower division girl reached the register beside me. Large headphones covered her ears, and she kept her eyes on the food. The cashier named the price. The girl counted her coins twice. She came up short. Her stomach growled loud enough to join the conversation. I split my egg toast and held out half. She stared at the sandwich, then at me. "I don't need charity." "Good," I answered. "Someone has to stop me from eating both halves." She accepted before she could argue again. Our fingers touched. The soulmate spark hit both of us. The girl's headphones slipped crooked. My tray nearly followed them. She introduced herself as Hazel Dempsey, a lower division student who used the cafeteria between classes. Then she bit into the toast. Her whole face changed. Hazel had entered the room looking ready to fight the air. One bite made her look genuinely happy. I watched too long. Hazel narrowed her eyes. "Why are you staring?" I answered. "You make cheap cafeteria food look like a 5-star event." She turned red and ate faster. Hazel explained why she wore the hood and headphones. Smells, crunching, and food talk triggered cravings she could barely ignore. Her metabolism burned through meals so quickly that hunger returned almost immediately. The headphones blocked sound. The hood narrowed her vision. Together, they kept every nearby lunch from declaring war on her stomach. A student passed carrying the cafeteria's minced cutlet sandwich. Hazel's head snapped toward it. Her headphones had lost the battle. The cafeteria worker announced that the sandwich had sold out. Hazel stood so fast that her chair scraped backward. She checked the counter, the warming case, and the return rack like one sandwich might be hiding from her. "Nothing," Hazel muttered. "The shop outside the gate still sells them." Then she looked toward the lower division exit sign. Students her age could not leave campus during recess. I offered to get one. Hazel shoved her hood back up. "I said I don't need help." Her voice came out sharp enough to turn nearby heads. Hazel flinched at the attention. Hazel grabbed her tray and left before I could answer. The next day, I found her behind the cafeteria during lunch. She sat alone beside the delivery entrance with her headphones on. The empty wrapper from yesterday's egg toast was folded neatly beside her. I held out a warm paper bag. Hazel smelled it before she looked. Inside was a minced cutlet sandwich. She removed one headphone. "The cafeteria is still sold out," I told her. "I know." Hazel took one bite. The bread compressed. The cutlet cracked. Her eyes widened. Then she noticed the bandages around both my hands. Oil had burned my fingers. The first 3 attempts had become charcoal. The 4th had become lunch. Hazel lowered the sandwich. "You made this?" I nodded. She looked at my hands again. Shame replaced the hunger on her face. "I treated you badly yesterday." I sat beside her. "You were hungry and embarrassed. I've confessed to 100 girls. Embarrassment has basically raised me." Hazel almost laughed. I pointed at the sandwich. "Keep eating!" She took another bite, slower this time. I told her the truth. Watching her enjoy food made everyone around her enjoy it more. Her appetite was loud, inconvenient, and impossible to hide. It also turned an ordinary meal into something worth sharing. Hazel held the sandwich with both hands. Then she asked, "Would you keep sharing meals with me?" I said yes. Hazel swallowed and forced the next words out. "As my boyfriend." I said yes before she could take it back. She leaned against my shoulder for 1 second, then sat upright and denied doing it. Tori would have respected the technique. Before bringing Hazel to the others, I told her about the 6 girlfriends and the God of Love's warning. Hazel listened, finished the sandwich, and gave her verdict. "Your God is an idiot." Finally, a soulmate had understood the situation immediately. That afternoon, I introduced Hazel to the family in an empty clubroom. Savannah welcomed her first. Tori inspected the hood. The quiet librarian offered a wave through her phone, while the human calculator asked about Hazel's metabolism. Our chemist reached for her drug case. I stopped Lexi before she opened it. Miranda, Savannah's mother and my wealthiest bad influence, offered Hazel a seat beside her. Hazel looked around at 6 girlfriends and one smiling mother. "You're all weird," she announced. "I'm dating Liam. I didn't agree to friendship." The room went quiet. Savannah's smile tightened. Tori's chair scraped backward. I asked the group to accept Hazel as girlfriend number 7 and give her time instead of forcing closeness. Savannah asked whether Hazel planned to share me while treating everyone else like strangers. Hazel crossed her arms. "I didn't ask them to like me," Tori answered. "Too bad. We come with him." That pressure made Hazel look toward the door. Reese surprised everyone. The human calculator closed her notebook. "I originally stayed because Liam mattered. I now stay because all of you matter." Hazel looked at her. Reese added, "Rejecting teamwork before testing it is inefficient." Tori pointed at Reese. "That was almost warm. Don't ruin it." Hazel stayed. The family accepted her, though she kept her chair half a step away. Then an announcement advertised a weekend food festival. The winning team received cash and a limited gelato set. Hazel's chair moved closer by itself. The event allowed teams of up to 10. Lower division entrants needed an adult guardian, and Hazel's parents were unavailable that weekend. Miranda lifted the permission form. "I'll sign," Miranda told Hazel, "after you call me mommy." Hazel stared at her with pure betrayal. Miranda kept smiling. The gelato prize appeared on the poster behind them. Hazel looked from the permission form to the gelato poster for 12 full seconds. Then she muttered, "Please sign it, mommy." Miranda hugged her immediately. Hazel looked at me over Miranda's shoulder. "Control your girlfriend," I told her. "That title currently applies to 7 people. You'll need a number." That weekend, our family entered the food festival together. The first round had one brutal rule. Only bowls of rice counted. Side dishes filled your stomach and earned nothing. A broad-shouldered champion named Gus Marino sat across the arena. He had won the event before and treated the scoreboard like inherited property. Gus looked at Hazel's hood and smirked. "First-timers always waste stomach space." Hazel reached for the rice. I stopped her and pointed at the side dishes. "Eat those first," I told her. She looked ready to bite me instead. Then I explained the only part that mattered. Everyone watched how much she enjoyed food. If Hazel made the useless dishes look irresistible, the other teams would copy her and waste capacity. Hazel tried one crispy side dish. Her eyes lit up. She ate another with enough joy to sell the recipe. The nearest team changed course first. Then 2 more followed. Within minutes, half the arena had filled itself on food worth 0 points. Gus never looked away from his rice. He took first place anyway. Our team barely qualified. The teams that copied Hazel sat clutching their stomachs while their rice scores stayed near 0. One competitor pointed at her like she had cheated them with facial expressions. Hazel lifted her chin. "I ate lunch. You made your own bad decisions." That was the first time she used her appetite as power instead of hiding it. Then she faced me. "Your plan almost got us eliminated," I answered. "Almost is carrying a lot of weight today." The bubble tea round punished Hazel first. The thick pearls exhausted her jaw, so Abigail stepped in. Our quiet librarian had spent years taking tiny bites while reading. She cleared the cup 1 pearl at a time and took second place. Her phone announced the result. The crowd cheered for the smallest competitor, and Hazel thanked Abigail by shoving over a fresh straw. Abigail's phone answered. "You are welcome." Hazel moved her seat closer to the team. The sushi sprint belonged to Reese until her stomach hit its limit. She climbed the judging platform and let her fear of heights wake her survival appetite. Reese finished the last pieces without looking down. Then she could not climb back. I carried her while Reese locked both arms around my shoulders and called the ride medically efficient. "You've used that excuse before," I told her. Reese tightened her grip. "It remains valid." Tori took the spicy tofu round. Other competitors cried after 1 bite. She ate through the pain while glaring at Savannah because, according to Tori, it improved the flavor. Cake attacked vanity instead of spice. The calorie warning froze Savannah and Miranda mid-bite. Tori casually mentioned that extra weight sometimes went somewhere useful, and both women restarted faster than before. Tori covered her own mouth after creating the problem. Hazel looked around at the women she had called weird. Abigail's tiny bites had saved one round. Reese had weaponized her worst fear. Tori had swallowed pain, then bullied two vain women into more cake. They were carrying Hazel through a contest built around her talent. "You climbed onto a ledge for this?" Hazel asked Reese. "I climbed onto a ledge to increase appetite," Reese corrected. Tori added, "She still needed Liam to carry her down." Reese refused to deny it. Hazel smiled. The final ramen round was worth double. Hazel pulled her hood down and took the center seat. "This one is mine," she told us. The gorilla crew from the bouquet contest joined as a full unit. Their leader shouted that nobody would stop eating while a teammate could still move. They attacked the bowls with terrifying loyalty and zero survival instinct. One member fell backward. Another kept chewing while staff lifted her. The leader raised a fist, swallowed too fast, and joined them. The entire gorilla crew left for the hospital together. They had turned friendship into a group medical emergency. Meanwhile, Gus kept eating. At 22 bowls, a panel on his mechanical suit popped loose. A storage tank inside had been swallowing most of his food. The crowd turned on him immediately. People who had cheered his lead started booing. One former fan held up an empty bowl and demanded he eat like everyone else. Gus slapped the panel shut and kept boasting. Then, the tank filled. His suit expanded around his stomach and locked. From that bite onward, every new bite had to enter his real body. Hazel had also reached 22 bowls. Her hand shook above the next one. She whispered, "I pushed all of you away. You still carried me." Savannah sat beside her. Tori took the next seat. The rest of the family joined without making her ask twice. Hazel had taken the center seat and called the final hers. The family gave her a team anyway. Gus forced down another bite and grinned at us. His confidence lasted until his cheeks turned green. One final bite remained between the teams. I asked Hazel to feed it to me. She stared at the chopsticks. "You're already full," I told her. "So are you." Then I offered a deal. "If I keep it down, you can taste anything you want afterward." Hazel's face turned red. Savannah immediately demanded contract details. Tori told her to stop helping. Hazel lifted the bite to my mouth. I ate it because my girlfriend had fed it to me. Across the table, Gus tried to match us. His body rejected the decision. He vomited into the emergency bucket while the scoreboard locked our win. The unbeaten champion folded in front of the entire arena. His machine had carried him. Hazel's family carried her better. At the prize table, Hazel apologized to everyone she had dismissed. She opened the gelato set and served the others before taking her own cup. Then she faced me. "You promised me any taste," Hazel reminded me. I nodded. She kissed me once, quick and certain. Hazel pulled back and tasted her gelato. "I could get used to your lips," she told me. Savannah demanded an equal dessert clause. Tori accused both of corruption. Miranda asked whether guardian privileges included a sample. Hazel finally laughed with the whole family. Hazel finished the gelato shoulder to shoulder with the women she had called weird. Then Miranda saw a display of baby outfits on the way home. She called Lexi over with the exact smile that usually preceded property damage. Right after the food festival, Miranda brought everyone back to her mansion, the Porter estate. She had seen baby outfits during the ride home and bought the whole display. Miranda spread tiny dresses, caps, and booties across the main room. Savannah stared at her mother. "You bought all of this during one traffic light?" Miranda answered. "The light was long." Lexi placed a pink vial beside the clothes. The chemist explained one rule. The medicine could temporarily turn someone into a baby, but the antidote became safe only after 1 hour. A timer on her phone would tell us when. Irene Lancaster, Miranda's closed-eye maid, entered with a tea tray. A cat jumped onto the table and knocked the vial's stopper toward the floor. Irene caught the tray, 2 cups, and the falling stopper without opening her eyes. Miranda waved Irene into the hall with the rescued tea. The instant Irene cleared the doorway, the cat swatted the uncapped vial onto the floor. Pink smoke filled the room. When it cleared, Savannah and I were still standing. Most of the girlfriends were crawling. Baby Miranda wore an expensive bonnet. Tori attacked a cushion, Abigail clung to her oversized phone, and Reese studied Lexi's timer. Lexi crawled straight toward the antidote. Hazel smelled the milk bottle in Savannah's hand and launched across the rug. The 1-hour countdown started. Savannah caught Hazel, who bit her sleeve. I grabbed Reese before she crawled off the couch and she poked me in both eyes because vision was apparently inefficient. Behind us, Lexi climbed a chair toward the antidote. I caught her when the tablecloth pulled the chair over. Tori raided Miranda's toy pile while Abigail hid under the sofa with her phone. 3 minutes later, Savannah looked at the timer. How has only 3 minutes passed? Then the babies discovered the staircase. A cracker bag drew Hazel toward the top step. Tori followed because Hazel moved first, and Reese followed because the route looked efficient. I blocked the stairs, so all three changed direction together. Miranda climbed onto a low table and raised both arms. I dove, caught her, and heard her laugh. She climbed again. I caught her again. The others immediately demanded the same game. For the next stretch, Savannah chased Hazel's milk obsession while I caught falling girlfriends across the rug. Abigail finally crawled out because her phone announced, "Please catch me too." I caught her, and the room erupted with tiny laughter. Tori demanded another turn with a punch to my ankle. Reese arranged blocks to test the best fall angle, while Lexi pointed at the antidote and babbled laboratory orders. Every pause created a new emergency. Look, I had survived a mansion raid and a body swap. 6 babies nearly ended me with furniture. At 12 minutes, the babies finally fell asleep together on the rug. Savannah and I sat against the couch, covered in scratches, milk, and crushed crackers. Baby Miranda slept between us with one hand gripping Savannah's finger. Savannah stared at her mother for a long time. Miranda had raised Savannah while she was still a child herself. She had managed hunger, sickness, fear, and grief without anyone sharing the night shift. Savannah squeezed the tiny hand. When the timer reached 0, Lexi's antidote became safe. I gave each baby 1 drop. The girls returned to normal and immediately complained about the floor. Miranda sat up inside a pile of baby clothes. Savannah faced her mother. "I kept mocking you for chasing childish things," Savannah told her. "You lost your childhood raising me." Miranda's smile disappeared. Savannah took both her hands. "I'm sorry. Please enjoy whatever you missed." Miranda pulled her daughter into a hug. "I was lucky to have you," she whispered. The room stayed quiet until Miranda looked over Savannah's shoulder. "Lexi, could I have another turn?" Savannah groaned into the hug. At the next family snack inside the Porter estate, Irene served everyone before taking her usual place behind Miranda. Her eyes remained closed beneath a calm smile. The earlier catch had already proven she could track movement without opening them. Hazel asked what color everyone's eyes were. Irene answered last. "Mine are rainbow-colored." Savannah leaned forward. "Then, open them." Irene kept smiling. "I cannot." She explained that years of holding the same service smile had left her eyelids closed. She treated the fact like a minor inconvenience. Then Irene reached for a small cutter from Lexi's toolcase. "If Miranda requests it, I can remove the obstruction." Miranda slapped the cutter from her hand. The blade snapped backward into its handle. Irene stared at the harmless plastic, then at Miranda. That woman heard a harmless request and immediately proposed surgery. The family decided to make her open her eyes safely. Surprise and food failed in 1 ugly minute. I clapped behind Irene. She caught my wrist before the sound finished. Hazel waved pastries under her nose. Irene identified every filling and handed Miranda's favorite back to her employer. The retractable cutter did no better. Lexi flicked it toward a napkin. Irene caught the harmless handle and returned it politely. Savannah tried jealousy next. She pushed Miranda toward Tori and ordered her mother to cuddle her. Miranda wrapped both arms around Tori. Tori froze, checked both women, and lowered her fists. Irene's smile tightened, but her eyes stayed closed. Our final attempt became a word game. Abigail's phone gave each person a category. Mine was, things found in a bedroom. Miranda leaned over Tori again at the worst possible moment. I answered, "Miranda." Every head turned toward me. I pointed at Savannah's mother. "Her fault. She keeps invading mine." Miranda threw a cushion at my face. Irene tried to hold her perfect smile. A laugh escaped. Then another. Her eyelids opened. Her irises carried clear rings of red, gold, green, and blue. The soulmate spark hit us immediately. Irene stopped laughing. I stopped breathing. Miranda looked between us and understood first. Irene closed her eyes again. "I cannot pursue my employer's boyfriend," she told me. Miranda stood. "Irene, prioritize yourself." Irene bowed automatically. Miranda lifted her chin. That was an order. For once, Miranda's order told Irene to choose herself. Irene turned toward me and asked for a date. The next day, I met Irene at a public park for our date. I asked where she wanted to go. "Wherever Miranda prefers," Irene answered. Miranda was not with us, so Irene switched to, "Wherever Liam prefers." She had replaced one master with another in under 3 seconds. At the first fork, Irene chose the path I had leaned toward. At the next bench, she kept sunlight out of my eyes. Her favorite hobby was apparently Miranda's schedule. Every answer still served somebody else. Then she opened a bento she had secretly made for me. Every compartment held my favorites, and none reflected her own taste. I offered 2 pieces and asked her to choose one for herself. Irene studied which piece I held closer, chose the other one, and pushed the better bite back toward me. The perfect maid could organize an estate and catch a falling cup blind. She could not choose lunch for herself. I asked her to make one choice. Irene knelt beside the bench. "Please give me an order." I pointed at a tennis ball a child had left near the path. "Fetch that." Irene sprinted across the grass, recovered the ball, and placed it into my hand. I stared at the ball. I had just turned our first date into obedience training. In my defense, every normal request had failed. I gave her a harder order. Stop being useful to me. Irene's smile disappeared. She walked behind a tree and stayed there. When I called, she stayed silent and pointed back at my order. Then, she left the park and returned to Miranda. I called the estate. Miranda told me Irene had come home, dismissed herself from duty, and hidden in an unused room. The order had worked exactly as spoken. It also made me worry enough to abandon the date and run after her. I found Irene alone inside an unused guest room at the Porter estate. She told me directly what service had done to her. Years earlier, Miranda had found her outside in winter, freezing and ready to disappear because she believed nobody needed her. Miranda gave her work, warmth, and a reason to wake up. Irene told me she had spent every year since then repaying that rescue. Then Irene admitted the final part. When I ordered her to stop being useful, she considered death the only permanent way to obey. I blocked the exit. Her disappearance had changed my whole day. Because she vanished, I called Miranda, left the park, and searched the estate. She had affected me while doing nothing for me. Her life mattered before any task. I asked her to live as herself, even if she needed years to discover who that was. Then I asked her to become my girlfriend. Irene opened her rainbow eyes again. This time, she kept them open. She accepted. Back inside the Porter estate's main room, I asked the family to accept Irene as girlfriend number 8. Savannah looked at Irene's closed eyes. Is this your choice, or another order from Mom? Irene opened her rainbow eyes and answered, my choice. Tori warned that disappearing again would start a fight. Abigail's phone told Irene she already belonged. Reese offered to test preferences without turning them into assignments. Then the family welcomed her. Miranda celebrated by putting everyone in maid outfits. The uniforms came with water guns and one rule: the last dry player won a hug and kiss from me. Irene became a final boss immediately. Tori charged first and slipped on a wet tray Lexi had used as cover. Lexi tried holding 3 water guns at once. One fired backward and eliminated her. Hazel bit a water balloon to steal the water. It burst across her face. Reese calculated a perfect ricochet and hit Abigail's shield. The rebound soaked Reese instead. Abigail crawled beneath a table, tagged Tori, and celebrated too early. Irene shot the table leg and splashed her from below. Irene kept moving with her eyes closed. She heard every pump, every footstep, and every drop hitting tile. Savannah tried a silent approach. Irene shot the wall beside her and let the splash force her back. Within minutes, only Irene, Savannah, and Miranda remained dry. Savannah grabbed her mother and pressed a water gun to Miranda's shoulder. Irene, surrender, or I soak her. Irene lowered her weapon. Miranda looked at her loyal maid. Then Miranda shot herself. Water covered her uniform. Savannah stared at the hostage she had just lost. Irene raised her gun and soaked Savannah before she recovered. That left Irene alone. She walked to Miranda, wrapped both arms around her, and pressed their wet uniforms together. Their uniforms were both wet. Irene had thrown away the prize to stay with Miranda. No dry player remained. I declared everyone a winner and gave each girlfriend the promised hug and kiss. Afterward, Irene tried to explain how Miranda had saved her. Her formal version sounded so tragic that Savannah, Abigail, and Hazel started crying. Irene finally simplified it. Miranda had found her freezing and brought her home, Miranda added. At first, I only helped because she looked cute. The crying stopped. Tori looked between them. You're both idiots. Abigail's phone agreed. At the Porter estate the next morning, the food festival, gelato, and estate snacks caught up with us. Our group weigh-in created immediate panic. We needed exercise. That decision led me to a lone baseball player and one closing club. It also gave me the most dangerous ball I had ever agreed to catch. The next afternoon, our family went to Westbridge Academy's athletic field for exercise. The post-festival weigh-in had damaged everyone's confidence. Savannah blamed the gelato. Tori blamed Savannah. Hazel blamed the scale. I found one girl swinging a bat beside an empty recruitment table. Her name was Casey Brennan. She was the last active member of Westbridge's girls' baseball club. Casey's swing cracked through the air. Then she looked at me. The soulmate spark hit both of us. Casey gripped the bat harder and smiled like the shot counted as resistance training. A sign beside her stated the club's problem in one sentence. Field, a full team, and win one probation game, or the club closed. A full baseball lineup needed 9 players. Casey was the only one left. Her 8 teammates had left for elite overseas training. Before leaving, they asked Casey to keep the home club alive until they returned. Casey tapped the empty table. So that's what I'm doing. That part earned my respect. Then Casey resumed swinging. She had already passed 10,000 repetitions. Her palms were split, her shoulders shook. She treated every new pain like a progress notification. I told her to stop. Casey answered, "Pain proves the muscle noticed." She swung again and collapsed. I caught her before the bat hit her head. Casey looked up from my arms and asked me to hit her or train her harder. Destiny had introduced me to a pain enthusiast with a closing club. Of course it had. I chose training and kept the bat out of her request. Over the next hour, I timed her swings, forced water breaks, and ended every set before her legs failed. Casey complained that I was too gentle. I told her, "You fainted during your introduction. Your first impression already lost the argument." She laughed and promised to return the next day. The next afternoon on the same field, Casey arrived early for another session. She saw Reese holding my hand while explaining a practice schedule. Jealousy hit faster than the baseball. Casey walked straight toward us and confessed. "I like you, and I want to be your girlfriend," she told me. I already had 8 girlfriends, so I gave Casey the answer she expected to hurt. "I can't date you." Her face fell, then her cheeks turned pink. She liked the heartbreak. Casey pressed one hand against her chest and whispered, "That was incredible." There it was. She had used a confession to chase pain instead of love. I held the lie until I bit my tongue hard enough to cough red into my hand. Casey's smile vanished. I wiped my mouth and told her the rejection had been a test. "If pain is the reward, I won't give it to you." Casey stared at me. I caught her wrist before she could chase another hit of pain. "The girl protecting a club for absent friends is the one I like? Your courage is part of it. Watching you destroy yourself to feel worthy is the part I hate, and I won't feed that pain." Then I asked her to date me honestly. Casey's face turned red for a completely different reason. She accepted. The fake rejection had made her excited. Sincere affection made her fold. Later that day, I introduced Casey to the family in the gym. I asked them to accept her as girlfriend number 9. Savannah welcomed Casey with open curiosity, then asked the question that mattered. "Do you want Liam, or do you want the pain of chasing him?" Casey looked at me instead of the floor. "I want him. I'm still learning how to stop using pain as proof." Tori inspected the bat. "Then no turning our boyfriend into training equipment." Casey agreed. The quiet librarian's phone welcomed her. The human calculator called Casey's training numbers reckless, while our hungry girlfriend asked whether practice included snacks. Everyone else nodded. Our chemist kept staring at Casey's bruises with professional interest, which scared everyone. Casey joined the family. Then Casey looked around at 8 beautiful girlfriends. Her smile collapsed. She handed Lexi a practice bat. "Please hit me," Casey requested. "I need help processing this." Lexi swung without hesitation and tapped her shoulder hard enough to spin her halfway around. Casey thanked her. Tori pointed at Lexi. "You were waiting your whole life for permission." Lexi nodded. "Consent improves science." That sentence should never have comforted me. Against my better judgment, it did. Miranda could have used her board chair authority to protect the club. She refused. "If the team cannot stand on the field," Miranda told us, "my badge should not pretend it can." Good. No rich person shortcut. I recruited the family instead. Several members did not qualify under the original school roster, so we found 3 temporary student fillers. Even with them, our group had almost no baseball experience. Everyone committed anyway. Minutes later, the first practice proved how serious the problem was. Miranda's perfect throw made Tori compare bodies at the worst moment and drop the ball. Reese fielded everything, then threw toward mathematically correct positions with no teammates there. Hazel caught a fly ball in her mouth. Irene rolled one so gently that Abigail had to chase it and apologize to the grass. Lexi tried swinging 3 bats like a swordsman. One dented the recruitment table, one landed in a tree, and the third made Casey duck. The team was terrible. Casey laughed, then stayed after everyone left and trained alone. Staff found her collapsed beside the batting cage the next morning. Casey claimed 100,000 swings. In the infirmary, her arms could barely lift the blanket. For the rest of that day, I checked between classes. Every visit ended with Casey promising to rest and asking whether recovery pain counted as training. I considered taking off my shirt, collapsing beside the field, and faking heat stroke so she would care for me instead. In my defense, reason had already failed. That afternoon, Casey returned before I could disgrace myself. The whole family was waiting with bats, gloves, corrected schedules, water, food, and Lexi's heavily inspected medicine. Casey reached for a bat. Savannah took it from her shaking hands. "Then we win with you," Savannah told her. The family stepped onto the field and Casey finally stopped training alone. For the rest of the week, each practice delivered one public disaster and one real improvement. Tori stopped overpowering throws. Reese aimed at actual teammates. Hazel stopped biting the ball after I threatened her snack budget. Abigail learned to watch the bounce with her glove open. Casey finally sat during water breaks. That was the first training victory I trusted. Game day arrived at Westbridge's field. Our 3 recruited fillers canceled by text that morning. One was sick, one had a family emergency, the third had injured an ankle. It was bad luck, plain and ugly. The opposing Ridgeway Raptors agreed to let family and friends fill the empty positions for the exhibition. That kept the game alive. Our experience level stayed terrible. Before the first pitch, Casey pointed to a bright marker beyond center field. If I use my full swing, the ball only counts if someone catches it there, Casey told me. A miss ends the play. She looked away before I could ask why. Casey took the mound first. Her pitching overwhelmed Ridgway's opening batters. The ball hit the catcher's glove before several players finished swinging. One batter stepped out and demanded a slower pitch. Casey smiled and threw the next one harder. The third batter swung after the ball had already landed. Our bench finally looked like a team instead of a support group. The crowd started cheering for Westbridge. Ridgway's catcher watched Casey with a harder expression. Her name was Brenna Wolf, and she carried herself like the field belonged to anyone loud enough to claim it. Brenna muttered, "I remember that swing." Casey heard her. Her shoulders tightened. Then Ridgway sent out Danica Royce, its ace pitcher. Danica threw a standard maximum fastball. The ball destroyed the first bat on contact. Brenna caught it cleanly. Their pitcher-catcher pair had built its reputation on that exact violence. Tori stepped up next. Danica's pitch tore the bat from her hands and drove her backward. Tori landed hard, stood immediately, and promised to return the favor. Then Casey entered the batter's box. The crowd noise rose. Casey looked beyond the outfield instead of at the ball. Her grip loosened. Danica threw another standard maximum pitch. Casey froze. The ball struck her bat, snapped it, and knocked her down. Her shoulder hit the dirt. The broken bat rolled toward our bench. Casey stared at the crowd and stopped hearing us. I called her name twice before she looked back. Brenna smiled like she had expected the failure. We carried Casey to the bench. I pulled our fielders in and called for a tighter defense. Brenna ignored the alignment and pointed toward Abigail in the outfield. "There's the hole," she told her team. Abigail heard her. Brenna hit the first ball directly toward Abigail. It bounced past her and forced her to chase. The next hit came higher and faster. Abigail raised her glove, flinched, and missed. Brenna reached base and leaned close enough for Abigail to hear. "You're too small for this field. Go hide behind a book." Then Brenna aimed at her a third time. Ridgway scored 3 points through the same weak spot. Abigail's phone slipped from her hand. She started crying. That was Brenna's mistake. She had found our smallest player and decided cruelty would keep her small. Tori walked to the plate with murder in her posture. Savannah picked up Abigail's phone. Around her, gloves tightened, Hazel stopped chewing, and Lexi closed the medicine case. Brenna had wanted one weak target. She had activated 8 angry girlfriends. Tori slammed the next pitch into the outfield and began the comeback. Lexi used a temporary size change dose before her turn. Her longer reach let her tap the ball past the infield and make first base. Miranda advanced the runners with a clean hit and ignored Brenna's comments. Then Abigail stepped up. Her hand still shook. I told her to hold the bat however she could. Abigail hugged it against her chest. Danica threw. The ball struck the bat and died in front of the plate. Abigail ran. The nearest baseman scooped up the ball and looked at Abigail hugging the bat with tears still on her face. A blush crossed the baseman's face. By the time she remembered the tag, Abigail had reached safely. The crowd that had watched her cry started cheering her name. Brenna's smile disappeared. Our strange team erased the 3-point gap. The game reached Casey's final at-bat. She stood beside me near the dugout and finally explained why Brenna recognized her. Years earlier, Casey had hit a home run into the crowd and injured a spectator. Since then, powerful pitches made her see that person falling again. Casey could pitch without fear. A full-strength swing locked her body. Now the marked boundary made sense. I walked to the same marker Casey had shown me before the game. Casey looked at me. "That ball could break your arms," I answered, then aimed carefully. She entered the batter's box. Danica opened with a hard, ordinary pitch. Casey swung late and missed. The second pitch came faster. Casey froze and missed again. One chance remained. The Ridgway crowd started chanting. Brenna told Casey she would always be afraid of her own strength. I stayed at the boundary and raised my glove. Casey looked past Danica and found me. She aimed at my glove instead of the crowd. Danica had saved one true ultimate pitch for the day. She launched it. The ball crossed the field faster than the earlier backbreakers. Casey hit with everything she had. Her uniform's outer seams ripped. Savannah threw a warm-up jacket around Casey before the dust settled. Then the ball came straight toward me. Its shockwave hit first. My feet slid across the dirt. My shoulder screamed. The glove snapped backward against my chest. I closed both hands around it. The ball stopped. I stayed inside the boundary. The field went silent long enough for everyone to see the catch. Brenna's mask slipped from her hand. Danica lowered her glove. Our bench crossed the field before the umpire finished signaling. Then Westbridge erupted. Casey had trusted me with the place she feared most. I had given her swing a safe ending. The club won the probation game. Casey's knees almost gave out when the result became real. Tori caught her first, then shoved her toward me. Casey ran the last steps wearing Savannah's jacket and kissed me beside the boundary marker. Her teammates' club would still exist when they returned. After the game, both teams shared barbecue beside the field. Brenna approached Abigail without her catcher's mask. She bowed and apologized for targeting her, insulting her, and using her fear to score. Abigail listened, then used her phone. "Do better next time," Brenna agreed. We saved the baseball club. Next, a beauty contest would threaten to exile one girlfriend. Soon after that, Miranda's hair would swallow the city. After the baseball barbecue, the family celebrated at a karaoke room near Westbridge Academy. Abigail, my quiet librarian girlfriend, spent the first 20 minutes hiding behind the song tablet. She had used her real voice to call for help at the pool. She had faced Brenna on the baseball field. A microphone in front of people still scared her more than both. Savannah placed the microphone in Abigail's hands. Tori blocked the door before Abigail could escape. Abigail's speaking app announced, "This feels like a hostage situation." Tori crossed her arms. A supportive hostage situation. I sat beside Abigail and told her she did not need to impress anyone. "Enjoy one song," I told her. "The room already belongs to people who love you." Abigail looked around. Savannah waved both arms. Reese lowered the score tablet. The rest of the family gave Abigail space, thumbs up, or snacks. Lexi smiled beside the lighting controls. That last detail should have worried me. Abigail stepped onto the small stage and chose a song without naming it aloud. Her first line came out thin. Then she saw the girls swaying together. Her shoulders relaxed. The second line landed clearly. By the chorus, Abigail was singing instead of surviving. Then Savannah grabbed her chest and dropped onto the couch. Tori's nose started bleeding while she shouted that Abigail was cheating. Reese tried to calculate the cuteness level, wrote an impossible number, and walked directly into the table. Hazel bit the foam cover off a spare microphone because the song suddenly made her crave sugar. Miranda saw Abigail as a tiny princess, rushed forward to hug her, and fainted across Irene's arms. Casey asked Abigail to sing harder. The next note hit Casey so hard that she fell backward and thanked the speaker. Irene kept smiling while tears poured down her face. She could not see the stage with her eyes closed, but the drug apparently respected no boundaries. The room had gone from family celebration to cuteness-related mass casualty. Lexi slowly hid an empty spray bottle behind her back. I pointed at it. "What did you release?" Lexi admitted she had used a cuteness-boosting medicine because Abigail looked nervous. The chemist had tried to help. Naturally, the room was now dying from sweetness. Abigail still had not noticed. She opened her eyes for one beat, saw the family swaying with her, and smiled. Savannah crawled toward the power button. I caught her wrist, let Abigail finish. Then I took the second microphone and joined the final chorus. Abigail opened her eyes. She smiled at me and sang louder. The combined note pushed Lexi's medicine past its limit. A pink shock burst from the speakers. The lights popped. The table flipped. A ceiling panel dropped toward the stage. I pulled Abigail against me, kicked the table away from Hazel, and dragged Miranda clear while Irene caught the falling panel. The shock ended as quickly as it started. Everyone lay across the room in different stages of defeat. Abigail remained in my arms, still holding the microphone. Her app spoke from the floor. "Did I do well?" I told her she had finished the whole song. The family answered by cheering from the carpet. Lexi lost spray bottle privileges for the rest of the week. The karaoke shock tore my jacket beyond repair. 2 days later, replacing it took me to the mall and the next problem beside a cosmetics counter. A girl in a spotless outfit was directing a clerk on how to angle the mirrors. Her name tag read Monique Prescott. She treated beauty like a competitive sport and the mall like her home arena. Monique turned toward me. "The soulmate spark hit." Her confident smile paused for one beat. Then she looked me over from shoes to hair. "You have excellent raw material," Monique told me. "The presentation is tragic." She was stunning, fully aware of it and already trying to redesign me. Bad combination for my concentration. Monique pulled me into the chair before I agreed to anything. She fixed my hair, changed my jacket, and adjusted my collar until nearby shoppers started looking twice. Then she linked her arm through mine and led me through the mall. "The crowd is watching us," Monique announced. I glanced around. "They might be watching because you kidnapped a stranger into a makeover." Monique smiled. "A beautiful kidnapping still improves the mall." She had the confidence of a final boss with perfect lighting. Monique told me nobody had ever surpassed her beauty. Then she corrected herself. Monique admitted, "One girl came close. I still dislike the memory." Before I could ask who, a couple stepped into our path. The girlfriend looked Monique over and accused her of showing off for taken men. Her boyfriend called Monique fake and called me her accessory. Monique answered, "Your jealousy is damaging your posture." That did not calm anyone. The boyfriend grabbed his drink and threw it at her. I stepped in front of Monique. The cup hit my new jacket and soaked the front. The boyfriend backed away when nearby shoppers turned toward him. His heel caught the edge beside the escalator. He tipped backward. His girlfriend screamed. I grabbed his wrist and pulled him against the railing before he fell. The same man had just thrown a drink at me. Now he was hanging from my arm and staring like the plot had betrayed him. He asked why I saved him. I told him, "You were defending your girlfriend badly. I understand the instinct." His face folded. The girlfriend apologized to Monique first. Then the boyfriend apologized to both of us. He turned himself into mall security and admitted what he had done. Monique watched him leave. Then she wiped the drink from my cheek with a handkerchief. Monique told me, "Your face is attractive, your heart is already beautiful." Monique asked me to date her. I explained the soulmate spark and my 9 girlfriends. She considered the number. 9 is unfinished, Monique decided. I will become girlfriend 10. 10 is beautiful. I told her my family had to accept her too. The girls were already elsewhere in the mall, so I called them over. Savannah arrived first and inspected my soaped makeover. Tori blamed Monique before hearing the story. The others gathered behind them. Monique kept smiling until Reese walked around the corner. Reese, the human calculator, stopped when she saw her. Monique's smile disappeared. "There she is," Monique whispered, "the one girl who beat me." The completed romance lasted 12 seconds. New personal record. Monique challenged Reese to a beauty contest on the spot. The rule was brutally simple. They would praise a specific quality, I would judge each round, and the loser had to leave my family. Monique claimed the contest was recognized by a World Beauty Association. Tori looked around the cosmetics store. "That association is you and this mirror." Monique ignored her. "I rejected the exile rule." Monique folded her arms. "Then I won't join this family until Reese faces me." Reese stepped forward. "Begin." Then Monique finally told us why it mattered. Years earlier, Monique had secretly entered Reese in a beauty contest. Monique paid the entry fee and styled Reese's hair. She waited beside the stage because she wanted a reason to speak afterward. Reese won. Monique approached with 2 celebration drinks and asked whether they could be friends. Reese handed 1 drink back. Reese had answered, "Friendship is an inefficient use of time." Then Reese walked away with the trophy. Monique told us the untouched drink hurt worse than losing the score. Reese stared at the floor. "I thought you only cared about the contest. I never understood you were asking me to be your friend." The first rounds moved fast. Monique praised Savannah's confidence. Savannah lifted her chin before the point landed. Reese chose Tori's fierce eyes, and Tori pretended the compliment had not hit. Monique praised Miranda's elegance. Reese answered with Irene's calm smile and rainbow eyes. Irene opened them long enough to make the point undeniable. Hazel earned praise because food lit up her whole face. Casey's posture earned the next point because years of practice showed in every movement. Lexi got fearless energy for surviving her own laboratory disasters. Then they reached Abigail. Reese studied the quiet librarian and called her cute. Monique struck the counter. "Cute is not beautiful." Abigail hid behind her app while Monique took the point and erased Reese's lead. The final subject was me. Monique praised my hair. I grabbed a pair of salon clippers from the cosmetics counter and shaved one side. Savannah screamed louder than she had during the contest. Reese praised the tailored jacket Monique had chosen. I tore the sleeve at the seam. Monique praised my eyebrows. I shaved one before anyone could grab the clippers. Reese praised my polished shoes. I kicked them off and snapped the decorative laces. Every quality disappeared before I could award the point. Monique scored 0. Reese scored 0. The contest ended in a draw. I looked like a man who had lost a fight with a discount salon. Worth it. Monique treated the draw as her defeat anyway. The confidence drained from her posture. She took off the contestant ribbon and placed it on the counter. Then she turned toward the mall exit and told us Reese had won again. Reese moved in front of her. The human calculator had no equation ready. She apologized directly. Reese told Monique she had trampled an honest attempt at friendship because she once believed people were inefficient distractions. Reese told Monique that our shared memories had changed her view of friendship. She no longer needed to measure its value. She asked Monique for another chance. Monique's hands started shaking. She looked at Reese, then at the family waiting behind her. Monique looked at the same girl who had once returned her drink. This time, Reese held out her hand and waited. Monique accepted it. Savannah welcomed her with a hug. Tori warned her that future exile contests would end with the judge being exiled instead. The rest of the family agreed. Monique became my 10th girlfriend. She wiped one tear and recovered her vanity. 10, Monique announced. Perfectly beautiful. Later that afternoon, Monique used Lexi as her first makeover model. Lexi took enough neutralizer to return to her older form. Monique transformed the chemist from safety violation into glamorous safety violation. Monique then mentioned that kissing could release beauty hormones. That was all the family needed to hear. Lexi added a stimulation lip balm because restraint had never entered her laboratory. Savannah kissed me first and staggered backward with sparkling eyes. Tori called the reaction fake, kissed me to prove it, and walked directly into Savannah. Their lips met by accident. Both blamed me. Abigail gave me a quick kiss, squeaked, and hid behind Monique's makeup case. Reese timed her kiss, lost track of the number, and requested a second trial. Hazel tasted the balm and asked whether beauty hormones came in strawberry. Casey kissed me, shivered, and asked Lexi to double the strength. Irene and Miranda leaned in from opposite sides, collided, and left matching lipstick on each other. Lexi laughed until Monique kissed her cheek with the balm still active. Then Monique claimed her own turn. By the end, every girlfriend insisted she looked more beautiful. I looked like a piece of modern art made entirely from lipstick and regret. Reese helped Monique clean the makeup brushes while Monique kept their shoulders touching. My missing hair still needed repairs. At the same time, the news started warning that the sun was getting colder. Those two problems should never have met. The next afternoon, Monique held another makeup class in an empty Westbridge Academy room. She wanted to repair the hair I had sacrificed during her beauty contest. A television played beside the mirrors while Miranda set down her tea. Lexi placed an identical paper cup beside it and mixed hair growth medicine with hair control medicine inside. The news anchor warned that solar activity had fallen again. Researchers feared the decline could push the world toward an ice age. Hazel stopped eating long enough to ask whether frozen snacks still counted as snacks. Monique pointed at my ruined head. Use enough to restore him. Do not create a forest. Lexi nodded with the confidence of someone who had created several forests by accident. Then Miranda grabbed the identical cup and drank the whole mixture before anyone could stop her. Her hair grew across her shoulders, the chair, and the floor. Then it wrapped around her body and sealed her inside a black cocoon. Irene, Miranda's maid and girlfriend, rushed forward. A thick strand struck Irene across the room. I caught her before she hit the mirror. Another strand snapped toward us. I pushed Irene down and took the hit across my shoulder. The impact tore my shirt and opened the skin beneath it. A falling light fixture broke loose above me. Miranda's hair caught the fixture before it reached my head. Then the same hair wrapped around Irene's wrists and slammed her against a cabinet. Tori tore the strand loose and pulled Irene back to us. Lexi stared at the cocoon. Lexi warned. The hair is following Miranda's instincts. It protects Liam. Everything else is a threat. Miranda loved us. Her unconscious instincts had apparently chosen the most possessive interpretation possible. The cocoon split open. Miranda's eyes were unfocused. Her hair moved for her. Hazel tried biting through one strand and was wrapped from shoulders to ankles. Vice Principal Crenshaw burst through the door after hearing the crash. Westbridge's punishment monster took one look at the moving hair and ordered it to stop. The hair stuffed her into the hallway ceiling before she finished the sentence. Fake authority had met a problem too large to bully. Lexi reached for a neutralizer. A strand slapped the bottle away. Her emergency case burst open. The fantasy spray rolled beneath Irene's shoe before the hair pulled the chemist into the growing mass. Savannah called to her mother. Miranda's eyes twitched inside the cocoon. For 1 second, the hair slowed. Then it decided Savannah was taking my attention and captured her too. Tori grabbed my good arm. Move! Irene got us into Miranda's car outside the school. Hair had already crossed the parking lot and wrapped around the wheels. Tori and Casey jumped out and pushed. The car broke free, but a curtain of hair dropped across the gate. Casey planted both feet under it and held the opening above the roof. The weight drove her to one knee. She grinned through the pain because Casey remained. Casey during the apocalypse. Drive! Casey shouted. Irene accelerated. The car cleared the gate. Hair closed around Casey behind us. Tori slammed her fist against the window, but going back would have trapped everyone. The strands spread across streets, buildings, and power lines. Within minutes, Miranda's hair covered entire blocks. Look, a cosmetic repair had just become a city-wide nightmare. Hair blocked the road ahead and lifted the car from one side. Tori kicked the door open and held the frame while the rest of us escaped. A strand wrapped around her waist. She shoved me toward Reese before the hair pulled her into the wall. That left Irene, Abigail, Reese, Monique, and me moving on foot. Abigail found Lexi's dropped fantasy spray inside the emergency case. She remembered what the same medicine had done during karaoke. Abigail sprayed herself and stepped into the open. The cuteness effect hit instantly. Thousands of strands turned toward her. Abigail ran one way while Irene followed to keep her alive. Their decoy opened a path toward the nearest rooftop. Reese, Monique, and I climbed the fire stairs. On the roof, Reese found a heavy cutter in the maintenance box. Monique grabbed a wide styling brush. The human calculator and the beauty final boss went to war with hair care equipment. Reese cut a path through the first wave. Monique twisted strands around the brush and threw them over the ledge. I reached the far side and saw the black cocoon rising above the city. Miranda sat at its center. Each strand curved around my body and struck whoever came near. The protective instinct was still active. A thicker wave swept across the roof. Reese shoved me behind the stairwell and took the strand across her waist. It pulled her off her feet. Monique grabbed Reese's hand. The hair caught Monique too. Both women told me to run before the mass dragged them over the edge. I refused to leave them. Rotors thundered above the roof. Miranda's helicopter dropped low enough to shake the loose gravel. Irene leaned from the cabin while Abigail waved beside her. Using her estate access, Irene had brought Miranda's helicopter, and Abigail had survived the decoy long enough to climb aboard. She lowered a rescue line. "Liam, take it!" Irene called. The helicopter offered a clean escape. Every captured girlfriend remained inside Miranda's hair. I grabbed the line, climbed high enough to clear the roof, and looked toward the cocoon. Then, I let go. I jumped straight toward Miranda's scalp core. Abigail screamed my name. The hair rushed upward. I trusted Miranda's strongest instinct. The strands caught me before I reached the street. They wrapped around my body and carried me toward the cocoon. The pressure knocked me unconscious. For a few seconds, I stood in the cold hallway of the Porter estate again. Savannah's father waited there. The ghost kept it simple. He told me to get up because Savannah and Miranda were waiting. Then the hallway vanished. I woke inside the hair cocoon, pressed near Miranda's scalp. Her eyes remained blank. Medicine had taken her mind, but the hair still protected me because some part of her knew who I was. That was the part I reached for. I held Miranda's face and kissed her. Her fingers moved first, then her eyes focused. The hair stopped across the entire city. Miranda looked at me, saw the blood on my shoulder, and understood what her instincts had done. She took control. The strands released every captured girlfriend. Savannah and Tori hit the floor first, and the others spilled free across the schools, streets, and rooftops. Even Crenshaw landed inside a trash cart with her makeup and dignity still protected. Reese landed on the rooftop still gripping the heavy cutter from the maintenance box. She slid it along a thick strand leading to the cocoon, and I caught it before Miranda gathered the hair. Miranda pulled every loose strand back toward the cocoon. The city cleared one block at a time. Then the television warning returned to me. The sun was weakening. Miranda had more hair than the planet knew what to do with. She gathered the entire mass into one column and drove it upward through the clouds. The pillar climbed until sunlight caught its upper edge. Miranda told me to cut the base. I used Reese's cutter to sever the final bundle. Solar heat raced down the pillar. The world-covering hair burned away from the top down. The light brightened as the last mass disappeared. Everyone survived. Miranda did not celebrate. After we returned to the Porter estate, Miranda hid in a dark room and refused to face the family. Through the door, she called herself a monster in front of her daughter and everyone she loved. Then the news reports arrived. No deaths had been recorded. News clips showed people laughing and treating the soft strands like a ridiculous citywide playground. Researchers confirmed that the sun-reaching pillar had restored enough solar activity to stop the approaching ice age. Savannah opened Miranda's door. She called her mother an absolute disaster. Then she hugged her. Hazel asked whether the woman who saved the climate could also make dinner. Abigail, Reese, and the rest crowded into the room. Miranda looked around at the girls she had nearly trapped and the family she had accidentally protected. She accepted their hugs. Then Miranda promised to act like a mother to all of them, preferably without using citywide hair. 3 days later, Monique resumed her makeup class at Westbridge. A shy classmate stood near the back with long bangs hiding most of her face. Monique called her Faye Winslow and asked her to carry a small display sign. The hook above Faye snapped. The sign fell toward her head. I crossed the room, pulled Faye aside, and caught the edge with my free hand. A gust from the open window lifted her bangs. Her eyes met mine. The soulmate spark hit. Faye covered her face before the sign finished hitting the floor. I asked whether she was hurt. Faye whispered that hiding her face mattered almost as much as staying safe. I told her the eyes she kept hiding were beautiful. She vanished. 1 second she stood beside me. The next, a small handmade doll sat in her place. I checked behind the display, under the table, and outside the door. Nothing. At the time, I thought the new soulmate had vanished for real. The next morning, I found another handmade doll on my desk. It looked like me. Right down to the missing eyebrow Monique was still repairing. A note thanked me for catching the sign. I raised the doll and called, "Faye, this is amazing." A second doll dropped from the ceiling panel. Faye disappeared before I could see where she had been hiding. Later that day, I caught the sound of quick breathing behind a hallway curtain. I thanked her again. The curtain moved. A doll rolled out one side while Faye slipped through the other. I followed the shoes instead of the doll. That finally stopped her. Faye pressed both hands over her face. Then she admitted she loved me. She explained the truth before I could call a priest. Faye used distraction dolls, clothing tricks, and perfect timing. Her method made people look in the wrong place while she moved through the right one. Faye called the skill embarrassing. Then she said a girl who could not survive a compliment did not deserve someone with 10 girlfriends. She dropped another doll and ran. I ignored it. Her shoes scraped behind the stairwell. Her breathing gave away the turn near the library. I caught up beside the courtyard doors. Faye tried one final switch with a doll wearing her uniform ribbon. I looked past it and found her behind the door. "I will find you anywhere," I told her. Faye lowered her hands. I asked her to date me and promised the family would meet her as an equal. She agreed. Then the compression binder beneath her oversized sweater snapped. Her carefully hidden uniform changed shape all at once. Faye made a sound of pure defeat and covered herself with both arms. I turned around, handed her my jacket, and kept my eyes on the courtyard. The shy girl had hidden an entire wardrobe emergency. I respected it and preserved my lifespan. That afternoon, I introduced Faye to the family in an empty clubroom. She gave every girlfriend a handmade doll. Savannah praised hers, and Faye disappeared behind the curtains. Tori called the trick impressive, and Faye vanished under the table. Abigail's app invited her to sit together. A doll answered from the chair while Faye hid behind Abigail. The family accepted her. My girlfriend count reached 11. Faye still treated her talent like a shameful habit, so I turned it into a game. The next day, I challenged every girlfriend to school-wide hide-and-seek. I promised to find all 11. Irene and Casey hid inside an equipment closet. Irene stayed silent, but Casey thanked a shelf for crushing her shoulder and exposed both of them. Savannah and Tori wedged beneath one teacher's desk and surrendered before I could determine who was sitting on whom. Monique and Lexi fell asleep in the costume room. Monique praised her skin in her sleep while Lexi recited side effects. Abigail and Reese hid among the library shelves. Reese corrected 3 misplaced books, and Abigail's app complained that the movement was inefficient. Miranda and Hazel chose a storage curtain. Miranda's outfit pushed the fabric outward, then Hazel's snack wrapper finished the confession. 10 girlfriends were found. Faye remained missing. I followed the dolls through the main building and noticed one wearing a tiny version of Vice Principal Crenshaw's coat. The punishment monster crossed the hallway carrying a lost item box beneath the shadow of her enormous hair. I asked whether she had seen a vanishing student. Crenshaw said she had not and kept walking with the box. A tiny breath came from inside it. I lifted the lid. Faye was folded beneath the lost sweaters while Crenshaw's hair hid the entire box from the other side. I declared Faye the winner. The family crowded around and celebrated the skill she had spent years hiding. Faye looked overwhelmed, but she stayed visible. She told me a formal winner's kiss would make her disappear for a week. I promised to wait. Faye looked at the family, gave one tiny nod, and closed her eyes before her courage escaped. I moved quickly and kissed her. She vanished behind Crenshaw 1 second later. Crenshaw shouted because a doll now occupied Faye's place. The family laughed. Tori watched Faye thank me without hiding behind a doll. She went quiet. The next morning, my blunt first girlfriend told me what she feared her own way of loving would eventually cost. The morning after hide-and-seek, Tori found me alone before the family breakfast. My blunt first girlfriend kept both hands in her pockets and refused to look at me. Then she told me about a dream. In it, I arrived late and tried to apologize. Tori wanted to say she had missed me. The words came out as, "Why did you even bother coming?" Dream me believed she wanted me gone. I walked away. Tori chased me, tried to shout that she loved me, and woke before the sentence came out. She admitted the dream scared her because every other girlfriend could show love more easily. I reached for her hand. Tori slapped it away, then grabbed my sleeve herself. Her love language still looked like attempted assault. Later that morning, all 11 girlfriends joined me for breakfast in Westbridge's clubroom. One heart-shaped snack sat in the middle of the table. There were 12 of us now, me and 11 girlfriends. I broke the snack into pieces and handed one to each girl. Savannah thanked me with a kiss on the cheek. Abigail's app said, "Thank you, Liam." Faye whispered her thanks before hiding behind Abigail. Tori stared at her piece. I waited. Her face reddened, then she threw the snack at my forehead. "Stop looking at me like that," Tori snapped. The snack bounced into Hazel's hands. Hazel ate it before the argument could continue. Tori looked around at Savannah's easy affection, Abigail's clear app, and Faye's quiet honesty. The dream had followed her into the room. Later, the girls started a small sumo game on the clubroom mats. Lexi's medicine case tipped during the first match. One vial rolled across the floor. The label read, "Anti-tsundere." Tori picked it up. Lexi shouted for her to wait. Tori drank it first. The medicine worked within seconds. Tori's shoulders relaxed. Her glare disappeared. She turned to me and smiled gently. "Thank you for the snack, Liam," Tori told me. "I am sorry I threw it." The entire family went silent. Savannah stepped backward like the polite sentence had threatened her. I asked Tori whether she felt all right. She took my hand without squeezing hard enough to hurt. "I feel wonderful," Tori answered. That answer scared me more than any punch. Casey invited Tori into the next sumo match. Normally, Tori could launch someone across the mat with one hip turn. Tori reached for that same grip. Her hand slipped, her stance folded, and Casey pushed once. Tori fell immediately. Savannah caught her before her head hit the mat. Casey stared down at her. That was disappointing. Tori apologized for losing and thanked Savannah for the catch. Casey looked even more disappointed. Savannah looked offended by the polite gratitude. Lexi checked the empty vial and explained the result through what we had just seen. Tori's tsundere energy powered the limiter that released her strength. The medicine had suppressed the personality and the power together. Abigail dropped her app. Sweet Tori picked it up, dusted it carefully, and praised Abigail's communication skills. Abigail looked ready to cry. Faye appeared beside Tori, expecting a blunt warning about hiding. Tori gently told her that shyness was charming. Faye vanished from pure discomfort. Savannah grabbed my arm. "Bring the real Tori back." Reese agreed. "Her behavior is easier. The person is diminished." Irene said she missed the woman who ordered everyone to stop treating her like furniture. Hazel wanted the girl who threatened anyone reaching for her food. Even Casey asked for the terrifying version who could throw her properly. Tori heard all of it. Her polite smile weakened. That afternoon, Tori asked me to walk with her around Westbridge's courtyard. She finally said everything the old Tori had struggled to say. Tori admitted she liked holding my hand. My praise for her cookies stayed with her for days. When I noticed her jealousy before she confessed it, she felt seen. She had wanted to thank me for the first clover. The swimsuit had mattered. Half her punches should have ended as apologies, but the punch always escaped first. Then Tori said the words cleanly. "I love you, Liam." Her voice stayed calm. Her face looked miserable. Tori asked whether this sweeter version would make my life easier. I stopped and held her hand. The old Tori never needed translating. I chose the girl who grabbed my sleeve before a kiss and protected Abigail when she cried. You restrained Miranda so I could reach Savannah. Even your ugliest words usually pointed away from the people you loved. Her roughness caused problems, and it belonged to the honest girl I loved. I won't help anyone demean that girl, I told her. That includes you. Tori's eyes filled. She squeezed my hand. I want myself back, Tori told me. That evening, we moved to the Porter estate. Lexi needed her full medicine kit and enough room for the cure to fail safely. Her first antidote did nothing. Tori drank it while Lexi watched the second hand on her phone. 1 minute passed. Tori's smile stayed gentle. Her grip stayed weak. She calmly thanked Lexi for trying and returned the empty vial without crushing it. The chemist looked personally insulted by both the failure and the politeness. I tried the second approach. I held Tori's face, told her she was beautiful, and kissed her until the entire room became awkward. Old Tori would have shoved me through a wall after 3 seconds. Sweet Tori wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me back. She even asked whether I wanted another one. Savannah covered Tori's mouth before the answer could damage the room further. The affection test produced affection. Tragic. Savannah tried one final provocation in the estate bath suite. She leaned against me, praised Tori's patience, and asked whether Tori minded sharing me so closely. Tori smiled. I trust both of you. Then she offered Savannah the better seat beside me. Savannah recoiled. This is unbearable. Behind the fogged glass, Miranda had been spying on the test. A nosebleed hit the divider, and Miranda dropped behind it. 3 cures had failed. Lexi gathered everyone in Miranda's main room and raised one last possibility. She held up 3 fingers. Small doses let the other 10 generate Tori's missing energy. Liam can filter it into her. A mismatch could make Tori explode. I volunteered as the filter. I would take the energy and the explosion risk, but nobody was joining because I ordered them to. Nobody left. Savannah swallowed her dose first. She immediately called me annoying while refusing to release my arm. Abigail's app declared that I was an idiot, though Abigail kept blushing behind it. Reese called affection inefficient and moved closer anyway. Lexi accused me of distracting her research while checking whether I was hurt. Miranda told me my posture was embarrassing and fixed my collar with both hands. Hazel refused another snack, then stole it from my plate. Irene ordered me to stop giving her orders. Casey claimed she hated pain and looked offended by her own sentence. Monique called my face ugly while repairing the eyebrow I had shaved for her. Faye hid behind the curtains and shouted that she did not want me to find her. Every contradiction produced energy. The glow moved from the girls toward me. Savannah's knees shook first, but she tightened her grip on my arm. Abigail's app slipped from her hand. Faye caught it and kept one hand in the circle. Reese lost her place mid-count. Monique's repaired makeup streaked with sweat. Hazel stopped joking about snacks. Casey's legs trembled. Irene leaned against Miranda and stayed connected. Each girlfriend kept giving until the light gathered inside my chest. Then the transfer changed me. I tried to tell Tori I loved her. Don't misunderstand, I snapped. I'm only doing this because everyone else would be useless. Tori's eyes widened. The second attempt came out as another insult. The love was obvious inside me, but my mouth kept twisting it. Tori had fought that filter every day. Energy tore through my arms as I stepped toward her. I love you, Tori, I forced out. All of you. Take it back. Both hands closed around hers and I filtered the gathered energy into her. The room shook. A shockwave threw everyone backward. The windows rattled. The table lifted and started to fall. Tori caught it with one hand. Her strength had returned. Her glare followed. She looked at me, red-faced and furious. Then she whispered, "Thank you, Liam." A tiny piece of the sweet version remained. Savannah laughed once. Tori threw a cushion at her hard enough to restore full confidence. When the room settled, Abigail picked up her app. She said communication took different forms. Her app spoke for her. Faye used dolls, Reese used blunt facts, and Tori apparently used airborne snacks. Tori raised another cushion. Abigail's app quickly added, "All methods are valid." Reese tried arranging the family by the order everyone joined. Tori told her the order had been broken for ages. I blamed whoever kept arranging our lives and let the girls choose their own order. Savannah went first. She held the old wedding photo against her chest. The all-night clover search mattered to her. So did the moment I jumped after her when she tried to disappear. Abigail held my eyes while her app spoke. She loved that I typed her whole book, waited for her voice, and never treated silence like emptiness. Then she repeated, "I love you," with her own voice. Reese took the next turn and held up the bent amusement park photo she still carried. She loved that I made her protect our memories and taught her that friendship deserved space in her life. Lexi gripped her medicine case with both hands. She loved that I rejected her potion without rejecting her, then stayed beside her mistakes in her research. She promised to keep earning that trust without shortcuts. Miranda held Savannah's hand. She loved that I protected her daughter, respected the man she lost, and gave her permission to love without erasing anyone. Savannah squeezed her mother's fingers while she spoke. Hazel offered me the last piece of the heart snack instead of eating it. She loved that I burnt my hands making her sandwich and called her appetite a source of joy. Irene opened her rainbow eyes and kept them on me. She loved that I worried when she stopped being useful and asked her to live before asking her to serve. Casey rested her baseball glove against her knee. She loved that I refused to reward her pain. At the boundary, I had given her a safe place to swing. The glove still carried the mark from that catch. Monique touched the uneven side of my hair. She loved that I ruined my own appearance before allowing either her or Reese to leave the family. Reese stood beside her instead of across from her. Faye stepped out from behind Abigail without using a doll. She loved that I found her every time and turned the skill she hated into something everyone celebrated. She stayed visible after the sentence ended. Tori stood last, her hands tightened at her sides. Then she looked directly at me. "I love everything about you, Liam," Tori said. All 11 girls waited for my answer. "I love all of you more than anything."